I can still picture the day Jack strolled into my life like it was just yesterday. I was in a tiny cafe, sipping on their cheapest coffee and trying to sort out my thoughts. Then he walked in, looking like he stepped out of a movie scene. No fancy lights or music, just the jingle of the doorbell and the smell of stale coffee mingled with his aftershave. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked, flashing me a charming smile and pointing to the empty chair across from me. "Go ahead," I said, trying to play it cool despite my surprise at his sudden appearance. We hit it off right away, like two peas in a pod. We had the same interests, from binge-watching cheesy TV shows to arguing over the best pizza topping, pineapple, no doubt. Soon, we were serious about each other, not just casually hanging out. It felt like we had known each other forever. And before we knew it, marriage was on the table. But then came the tough part. Let me tell you, his parents were a handful. Meeting them for the first time was like stepping into a lion's den with a juicy steak strapped to my back. They had this way of smiling while silently judging you, deciding if you were up to par or not. "You're the one Jack can't stop talking about, huh?" his mom said, her tone more frosty than friendly. "Yep, that's me," I replied, trying my best not to let her intimidating aura get under my skin. His parents wasted no time in expressing their desire for us to sign a prenup. I wasn't interested in their money, but their approach left a sour taste in my mouth. "I'll sign your prenup," I told them. "But here's the catch. If one of us cheats, the cheater owes $200,000. Jack looked stunned, like I'd slapped him with a wet fish. "Babe, I'd never cheat on you," he insisted, his expression dead serious. "Yeah, well, my ex said the same thing before I caught him cheating," I shot back. It was either this deal or nothing. Jack eventually agreed, though his parents didn't seem too thrilled about it. We figured that settled the matter, but we were in for a surprise. One evening, we were cozied up on our old squeaky couch. We always talked about replacing it, but it held too many memories to let go. The TV droned on in the background, but we were too wrapped up in planning our dream trip to Switzerland. We knew it would stretch our budget thin, but we were determined to make it happen. Picture it, Jack. The food, the wine, the art. "We have to go," I exclaimed, excitement lighting up my eyes. Jack chuckled and pulled me closer. "Linda, you had me at food, but let's face it, our bank account is more suited for backyard camping than a fancy trip to Geneva." I nudged him teasingly. "Then we'll save up. We'll cut back on things we don't really need, like your video games." He feigned shock. "Not the video games. Take my shirts, my shoes, even my beloved coffee maker, but spare the games." We shared a laugh. That was us in a nutshell, dreaming big while staying grounded in our simple life. And we were content. Our happiness didn't just lie in grand adventures, it was also in the everyday moments, like Jack's attempts at cooking breakfast on Saturdays. He wasn't a culinary master, but he had somehow perfected scrambled eggs and toast, which he proudly served with his less-than-perfect coffee. "I'm feeling scrambled eggs today. What do you think?" he'd ask, already making his way to the kitchen. "Only if you promise not to burn the toast this time," I'd tease back, adding, "and I'm taking charge of the coffee." One day, as we tackled the dishes together, a mundane chore that felt special because we did it side by side, Jack broached a topic we'd been avoiding. "Linda, we need to talk about, starting a family," he said, breaking the comfortable silence. I paused, holding a plate in my hands. "I know it's just scary, isn't it? What if it doesn't happen for us?" Jack turned to me, drying his hands on a towel. "Then we'll face it together. But we won't know until we try, right? How hard can it be?" He chuckled, a mix of nerves and affection in his tone. Famous last words, huh? But that's us. Whatever life threw at us, we tackled it together. Even when his mom started dropping hints about wanting grandchildren every chance she got, we handled it. "Linda, dear, when are you going to give me some grandbabies? You're not getting any younger, she'd say, her tone sugary but her message clear as day. I'd hold my tongue, flash a smile, and chirp, "We're on it, right, Jack?" And he'd chime in, "Mom, chill out, okay? These things don't happen overnight." But as time passed, the pressure mounted. It wasn't just from his mom, but from us too. We longed for a family, but it wasn't falling into place as easily as we'd hoped. Since Sophia found a new hobby in making my life tough, our home felt like a war zone. her sharp words the main ammo. It all boiled over during one Sunday lunch, meant to be serene and easygoing. Right on cue, Sophia barged in uninvited just as we were about to dig in. The atmosphere turned tense the moment she stepped in, her eyes scanning the room like she was inspecting a battleground. "Well, isn't this a quaint little setup?" she sneered, eyeing the modest meal I'd whipped up. "Quite the effort, Linda. Looks like you've been slaving away in the kitchen all morning." Trying to keep the peace, I mustered a smile. "It's nothing fancy, Sophia. Just something simple and quick. Please, take a seat." As we settled at the table, she launched into her usual spiel. "You know, Linda," Sophia began, her tone dripping with condescension, "I was chatting with Mrs. Charlotte the other day, and she mentioned how her grandson just became a dad. It got me thinking, when are you and Jack going to give me some good news? Time's ticking, you know." My cheeks flushed with a mix of embarrassment and frustration. I glanced at Jack, hoping for some backup, but he suddenly seemed very engrossed in his meal. "Mom, seriously?" Jack finally mumbled, but it lacked conviction, and we all knew it. Undeterred, Sophia pressed on. "I hate to be blunt, but you're not getting any younger. You work hard for your money. Why waste it on Linda if she can't fulfill her basic duties as a wife? Hiring help for cleaning and cooking would be much more efficient, don't you think?" That was the last straw. "Sophia, I'm doing my best here," I blurted out. "It's not like I don't want kids. And as for the house and cooking, I didn't realize marriage came with a job description." Sophia scoffed. "Marriage isn't a free ride, Linda. You have responsibilities, and frankly, you're not meeting them." The air grew heavy with tension, and tears threatened to spill from my eyes. But what hurt the most wasn't Sophia's harsh words. It was Jack's silence. When he finally spoke, it wasn't in my defense. "Mom's right, maybe we should consider getting some extra help around here. It would take some weight off your shoulders too," he suggested. His words felt like a stab in the back. It was clear I was alone in this. In the days that followed, Sophia's visits became more frequent and her criticisms sharper. She'd scrutinize every corner of the house, pointing out any flaw. "You call this clean?" she'd sneer. "Looks like a pigsty to me." Then came the jabs about my appearance. "Is that what you're wearing? A wife should dress to please her husband. No wonder Jack seems exhausted. He comes home to this." I tried to stand up for myself. "Sophia, I dress for myself, not Jack. And he's tired because he works hard, not because of my outfit." But it was pointless. Sophia had made up her mind about me, and nothing I said seemed to make a difference. Jack's lack of support hit me the hardest. Every night after his mom's departure, we'd end up arguing. "Why won't you defend me, Jack? She's bulldozing over us, and you're just standing by." "Linda, she's set in her ways. What do you expect me to do? Kick my own mom out?" "No, but I expect you to be my partner, to stand with me, not her." It became evident that this went beyond Sophia's disapproval. It was about us, our marriage, and whether we could withstand the onslaught of Sophia's criticisms. As weeks passed, it dawned on me that this wasn't just a passing phase, it was a full-blown assault. If we didn't take action soon, there might not be anything left to salvage. Things between Jack and me had turned frosty ever since Sophia ramped up her criticisms. But it wasn't just our home life feeling the strain. Jack himself had started behaving oddly, and it wasn't solely because of work stress. There was something else, something unsettling. It all began with his phone. Jack used to be open about it, we had no secrets. But then he began leaving the room whenever he received a call. And it was always from the same person, Paul Work. One evening, I tried to sound nonchalant and asked, "Who's Paul Work?" Jack visibly tensed up, a clear sign of nervousness. "Oh, just a new guy at the office. Asks a lot of questions," he replied. But there were more changes. Jack, who never cared much about fashion, suddenly started paying attention to his appearance. The graphic tees and worn-out jeans disappeared, replaced by crisp shirts, slacks, and even cologne. "Since when did you start smelling like a department store?" I teased one morning, watching him style his hair differently. He just smirked. "Can't a guy mix things up every once in a while? No harm in that, right?" Then there were the late nights at work, becoming more frequent. "Another long one, babe," he texted. "Sorry, this project is a killer. I'll be home soon, I promise," he reassured, but it would be well past midnight before I heard his keys jingle in the door. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. It lingered like a shadow. That's when I made the decision to hire a private investigator. It felt like a scene from a cheesy TV show, but I needed to know for certain. The evidence arrived in a plain brown envelope. Heartbreaking yet undeniable. Photos of Jack with another woman, their intimacy unmistakable, captured in moments that shattered our years together. But it was the recording that cut the deepest. Their conversations filled with affection and plans made it painfully clear. He was in love with her, or at least with someone else. I sat there, staring at the damning evidence before me, a chilling reality sinking in. This could be the key I needed if our marriage spiraled into a messy divorce. The photos captured stolen moments from our life together, while the recorded words betrayed every "I love you" he ever whispered in my ear. But I kept it all to myself, a heavy burden I chose to carry alone. I wasn't ready to confront him, not yet. I needed time to strategize, to navigate the collapse of our marriage while preserving my dignity. The days that followed passed in a blur. Jack maintained his facade, and I played the part of the dutiful wife, smiling outwardly while crumbling inside. Our conversations became a delicate dance around the truth, each word carefully chosen, every laugh forced. "Are you okay?" Jack would inquire, genuine concern lacing his voice. "Yeah, just tired, you know. Work's been hectic," I'd respond, the lie bitter on my tongue. It seemed like just another ordinary day until I accidentally overheard a conversation that would change everything. As I passed by Jack's office, the door slightly ajar, their voices drifted out. It was Jack and his mother, Sophia, and their conversation wasn't casual. Their tones were serious, filled with purpose. "I can't keep this up, Mom. It's not just about having kids anymore. I don't feel the same way about Linda. It's like we're living together as strangers, not as a married couple," Jack admitted, his voice heavy with exhaustion. Sophia's reply was cutting. "Well, can you blame yourself? She hasn't given you a child. And what else has she really brought to this marriage? But let's not be hasty. My 65th birthday is approaching, and we wouldn't want to miss out on a generous gift from her, would we?" Her cynicism felt like a stab in the heart. They were using me, planning to keep me around just long enough to benefit from a lavish birthday present before discarding me. "Exactly, dear. Just a bit longer," Sophia affirmed, her words dripping with malice. I stood there, stunned and furious. They were plotting to push me out of the family as effortlessly as crossing off an item on a shopping list. The pain ran deep, but it fueled a burning desire for vengeance within me. They thought they could manipulate me and discard me at their convenience. I was determined to prove that I wasn't just a pawn in their twisted game. A few days later, we gathered for a family dinner that felt more like a scripted performance than a meal. Sophia brought up her impending birthday with a smile that made my stomach churn. Leaning in, she asked, "So, Linda dear, what do you have planned for my birthday? Something special, I hope." I met her gaze calmly. "Actually, Sophia, I've been thinking of arranging a dinner at the city's most luxurious restaurant, an unforgettable evening." Her eyes gleamed with anticipation, and she exchanged a satisfied glance with Jack. They believed they had me cornered, but they didn't realize I was already 2 steps ahead. "Oh, Linda, that sounds lovely. Just close family, you know, keep it intimate," Sophia cooed, her voice oozing with insincerity. "Absolutely, Sophia. We'll make it a memorable occasion," I replied, the words leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. The weeks leading up to Sophia's 65th birthday felt like a slow march towards a reckoning. Every smirk from her and every indifferent nod from Jack fueled my resolve. My plan was straightforward yet daring. Orchestrate a lavish dinner as a supposed gesture of affection, then unveil a monumental surprise. As with all well-laid plans, the devil was in the details. The night before the party, our home crackled with tension. Jack, oblivious to the storm brewing, lounged casually on the couch, absorbed in his phone. "Everything ready for tomorrow?" he inquired, still glued to the screen. "You could say that," I replied, my voice masking the turmoil within. The day arrived, and as guests streamed into the opulent dining room we had reserved for Sophia's celebration, anticipation hung heavy in the air. My pulse quickened, not from nerves, but from the excitement of what was to come. Sophia, relishing the spotlight, luxuriated in the grandeur of her surroundings. "Oh, Linda, you've truly outdone yourself. This place is divine," she proclaimed loudly enough for neighboring tables to hear. As we settled in, the evening unfolded with the peculiar cheer typical of family gatherings. Laughter rang out, stories were shared. Then, as the dessert plates were whisked away, the waiter approached with the climax of the evening. The bill. He leaned in discreetly and murmured the staggering dinner costs. $66,000. I handed over my credit card, my action going unnoticed by most. Then, with a strained smirk, Jack decided to drop his bombshell. Linda, it's time for the truth. I'm done with this, with us. I want a divorce. His words hung heavily in the air, suffocating the room. Before I could fully process his announcement, Sophia, sharp and unyielding, interjected. Well then, now that's out in the open, it's best you leave, Linda. Tonight is about family, and well, you're no longer part of ours. The room fell into a hushed silence, every gaze fixed on me, awaiting my response. But I refused to crumble. With a composure I didn't truly feel, I rose from my seat, nodded, and departed without a word. The chill of the night air slapped against my skin as I made my way home, the weight of finality crashing over me in waves. By the time I reached Arno's apartment, I had a plan. I gathered my essentials, my numbness morphing into steely determination. This was the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. As I sealed my last suitcase, my phone buzzed incessantly. Initially, I ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me, and Sophia's voice erupted from the other end. Linda, the payment didn't go through. You need to fix this right away, Sophia's voice demanded. The irony was bittersweet. In my preparations, I had blocked access to the shared account, anticipating it would be Jack's first move. Oh, Sophia, what a shame. But since I'm no longer considered part of the family, as you've made abundantly clear, I'm afraid you'll have to handle this matter on your own. Her indignation crackled through the phone, but it was a symphony to my ears. The ensuing chaos was a fitting conclusion to the charade my marriage had become. I heard tales of the restaurant staff demanding payment, Sophia's escalating fits, and eventually the police being called to defuse the situation she had incited. In the end, it was Jack and his kin who scrambled to settle the bill. A poetic retribution for the betrayal and indignity they had subjected me to. The morning after the dinner felt like emerging from a tempest. Armed with my plan, my determination, and a stack of divorce papers in hand, I returned to what once was our shared abode for the final time. The atmosphere was tense, palpable, as if it could be sliced with a blade. Jack and Sophia stood there, seemingly embroiled in a heated exchange. Their animosity toward me seemed to merge into a unified front of fury upon my arrival. You've got some nerve showing your face here after last night, Jack spat, his features twisted in a mixture of anger and disbelief. Quick to echo his sentiment, Sophia hurled her own barbs. Ingrate, you've brought shame upon us in front of the entire city. Do you comprehend the humiliation of having the police summoned on account of your actions? People were laughing, filming. I met their fury with a composure I hardly felt. Shame? Is that your primary concern right now? I retorted, tossing the divorce papers onto the table, placing the incriminating photos of Jack's infidelity atop them. Perhaps you should direct your attention to this instead. Jack's complexion drained of color as he picked up the damning photographs, with his mother looming over his shoulder. Their rage dissolved into shock, then morphed into panic as they comprehended the gravity of the situation. And let's not overlook the prenup, shall we? I pressed on, my voice unwavering. You stray, you pay, precisely $200,000. Sophia's features contorted into a snarl. You wouldn't dare. You can't do this to us. Oh, but I can, and I will, I retorted, my voice devoid of warmth, resolute in my decision. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Jack altered his approach. Please, let's discuss this. We can find a solution. I couldn't suppress a bitter, mirthless laugh. Find a solution? You think a few words can undo everything? No, Jack, it's over. Sophia, ever the master manipulator, attempted to soften her stance, her tone dripping with false concern. Linda, darling, think about what you're doing. This will destroy us. That ship has sailed, Sophia. You should have considered that before. Their pleas shifted to desperate entreaties, their words a frantic attempt to salvage whatever remained. But my mind was resolute. I was done playing the victim, done with their deceit and manipulation. In the end, Jack had no recourse but to borrow money from his parents to settle with me. As I departed from that house for the final time, check in hand, I felt a burden lift from my shoulders. After all that transpired, I was finally liberated. I used the money from Jack to secure a down payment on a modest yet snug abode of my own. It's remarkable how much tranquility you can find in a residence that's solely yours, where each nook feels like a sanctuary away from the tumult of the past. Life is calmer now, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I have a job that keeps me occupied, amiable neighbors who offer nods and smiles, and a petite garden that's entirely mine to tend to. Occasionally, I catch wind of gossip concerning Jack and Sophia. Just the other day, while grabbing coffee from the local spot frequented by the community, I bumped into an acquaintance from the old neighborhood. After some polite chit-chat, they leaned in, lowering their voice, and whispered, "Hey, have you heard the latest scoop about your ex and his mom?" Their eyes gleamed with intrigue. I arched an eyebrow, intrigued yet detached. "Can't say that I have." "Do share." They seemed to relish divulging the news. Apparently, Sophia isn't too thrilled with Jack's new girlfriend. Rumor has it they're quarreling like there's no tomorrow. Puts your situation in a whole new light. We moved on from the topic, but as I strolled away with my coffee, I felt a profound sense of relief. There was a time when such news would have unsettled me, but now it's simply another chapter in someone else's tale. These days, my greatest worries revolve around whether my tomatoes will ripen before the squirrels snatch them, or if I'll ever master yoga without resembling a newborn deer on ice. Life is simpler, quieter, and considerably sweeter on this side of the chaos.
The last person I expected to talk about money at Dad's funeral was his wife. But there she was, dabbing her mascara-stained tissues while asking if I'd had a chance to look at the life insurance paperwork. "I'm Sophie, and I just buried my father yesterday. He was 62, far too young, and the church still smelled like lilies and grief when Sandra cornered me by the coffee urns." "Sweetie," she cooed, placing her manicured hand on my arm, "I know this is hard, but we need to discuss the practical matters. You're in no state to handle such complicated things alone right now." I stared at the steam rising from my untouched coffee. What they didn't know was that 3 months before he died, Dad took me to lunch, looked me dead in the eyes, and told me exactly what to expect. "Sophie?" Sandra squeezed my arm. "Are you listening, dear?" "Sorry," I mumbled, playing the part of the broken daughter. It's too soon." Of course, of course." She nodded sympathetically, but her eyes remained sharp. "That's why Trenton and I want to help. Speaking of—" She waved across the reception hall to her son, who materialized beside us with practiced timing. "Hey, sis." Trenton's cologne was expensive enough to make my nose itch. "How are you holding up?" Before I could answer, Sandra jumped in. "We were just discussing the insurance situation. Sophie's obviously overwhelmed." "Oh, yeah, totally understand." Trenton's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Look, we can handle all that boring paperwork stuff. You just focus on healing, okay?" An elderly couple approached us then, saving me from responding. "Sophie, dear." Mrs. Harrison from Dad's office wrapped me in a vanilla-scented hug. "Your father was so proud of you. Just yesterday he was showing me pictures of your new project at work." "Yesterday?" Sandra's voice carried a hint of steel. "Kenneth was in the hospital yesterday." "Oh, no, dear. This was last week at the office. He came in to finish some paperwork." Mrs. Harrison patted my hand. "He was so excited about your promotion." I watched Sandra's face tighten. Dad hadn't told her about visiting the office, just like he hadn't told her about our lunch 3 months ago, or the meetings with his lawyer, or a dozen other things he'd carefully arranged before the cancer took him. "Sophie," Trenton cut in smoothly, "maybe we could grab coffee tomorrow, talk about everything properly." "Everything meaning the insurance?" I kept my voice soft, vulnerable. "Well, yeah, and the house, the investments. Dad would want us to sort this out as a family." Family. The word felt hollow coming from him. 5 years of being step-siblings hadn't made us family. 5 years of watching him and Sandra slowly sink their claws into Dad's life hadn't made us closer. "I suppose we should," I said, letting my voice shake slightly. "But maybe next week? I need some time. Of course, sweetie. Sandra's smile was practiced perfection. But don't wait too long. There are deadlines for these things. As they walked away to mingle with other mourners, Nicole appeared at my elbow. My best friend since college, she'd watched this whole drama unfold from the beginning. They're circling like vultures already, she whispered. I took a sip of my now cold coffee. Dad said they would. And I'm ready. I met her eyes. He made sure of that. Nicole squeezed my hand. Good, because Sandra's been telling everyone you're not handling things well and need family support during this difficult time. I almost smiled. Almost. Did she mention the part where she tried to access Dad's accounts the day he died, before his body was even cold? What? Nicole's eyes widened. The bank called me. They were following Dad's instructions. I set down my coffee cup, just like I'm going to do. Across the room, Sandra was holding court with Dad's sisters, dabbing at dry eyes while Trenton nodded solemnly beside her. They thought they had it all figured out. The grieving daughter, too emotional to think straight. The caring stepmother and stepbrother stepping in to help manage the estate. They had no idea what was coming. You know, Nicole said quietly, your dad would be proud. You're handling this exactly like he taught you. I watched Sandra laugh softly at something, her hand resting possessively on the back of Dad's favorite armchair. He taught me a lot of things, especially in those last few months. I straightened my black dress. And lesson number 1 was never let them see you coming. 3 months before the funeral, Dad ordered pancakes at our favorite diner. His hands shook as he poured syrup, but his voice was steady. The test came back, he said, cutting perfect squares in his stack. It's stage 4. The world tilted sideways. But there are treatments. Sophie, he set down his fork. I need you to listen carefully. There's something more important than treatment options right now. I remember how the vinyl booth squeaked as I leaned forward, how the coffee burned my tongue, how Dad's wedding ring caught the fluorescent light as he pulled an envelope from his jacket. Sandra's been asking about my life insurance, he said, and Trenton's been hanging around my office talking about investment opportunities. Dad, I made a mistake marrying her. His words came out clipped, precise. I was lonely after your mom died, and Sandra, she's good at making people see what they want to see. He slid the envelope across the table. Inside were documents, bank statements, and a business card for Bradley Zimmerman, attorney at law. I've changed everything, Dad continued. The insurance, the house, the investments. It's all going into a trust for you. The memory blurs into the present as Sandra's voice cuts through my thoughts. We're sitting in her cream-colored living room, Dad's living room, and she's pushing papers across the coffee table. It's just a simple transfer of executorship, she explains, tapping a dotted line with her French-tipped nail, to help you manage during this difficult time. Trenton lounges in Dad's leather recliner, scrolling through his phone. It's basically just saying we'll handle the boring stuff while you grieve. No big deal. I pick up the papers, pretending to read them carefully. The document is exactly what Dad warned me about, a complete transfer of control over his estate. I don't know. I bite my lip, playing up my uncertainty. Maybe I should have a lawyer look at these. Sandra's smile tightens. Oh, sweetie, there's no need for that. We're family. Yeah, sis. Trenton finally looks up from his phone. Don't you trust us? I think about the lunch with Dad, about his voice cracking when he said, they'll try to take everything. Don't let them. Of course I trust you, I lie. It's just, Dad always said to read everything carefully. Kenneth was, Sandra pauses, choosing her words. He could be paranoid about these things, especially toward the end. Speaking of the end, Trenton leans forward. I've got this amazing investment opportunity. Crypto's about to explode, and if we move fast with Dad's portfolio, Trenton, Sandra cuts him off with a warning look. Not now. I'm just saying the sooner we sort out the paperwork, the sooner we can protect the family's assets. I stand up, clutching my purse. I need some time to think about this. Sophie, Sandra's tone sharpens. There are bills to pay, decisions to make. We can't wait forever. Just until tomorrow? I make my voice small, pleading. Please? Sandra sighs dramatically. Of course, dear. Take the papers home, look them over. But remember, the longer we wait, the more complicated things get. As I drive home, Dad's words echo in my head. Our last lunch together, his hands steady despite everything. I've left instructions with Bradley. Wait until they show their hand, then call him. He'll know what to do. My phone buzzes with a text from Sandra. Just trying to help, sweetie. Your father would want us to work together. I park in my driveway and pull out the business card I've carried for 3 months. Bradley Zimmerman's number is crisp and black against the white cardstock. Another text buzzes through. Trenton this time. Seriously, sis, this crypto thing is huge. Once you sign those papers, we can double Dad's investment in months. I smile politely at my phone screen. You want me to sign control over to you? I whisper to myself. That's adorable. The phone rings 3 times before Bradley answers. Sophie? He says warmly. I've been expecting your call. They made their move, I tell him. Just like Dad said they would. Do you have the transfer documents? Right here. Good. I hear paper shuffling on his end. Your father left very specific instructions for this moment. Can you come to my office tomorrow at 9? I'll be there. And Sophie? Bradley's voice softens. Your father would be proud. You're handling this exactly as he hoped you would. I end the call and look at the transfer papers on my passenger seat. Sandra's pen marks showing me exactly where to sign away everything Dad worked for. Game on, I whisper, and start the car. Bradley's office smelled like leather and old books. He spread documents across his mahogany desk while I sipped coffee from a real china cup. Your father was meticulous, he said, tapping a thick folder. Every transaction, every conversation. He documented everything after his diagnosis. That sounds like Dad. He knew they'd make a play for control. Bradley adjusted his glasses. The trust is ironclad, but how we handle this will define your family relationships going forward. What family? The china clinked as I set down my cup. They're vultures in designer clothes. My phone buzzed. Another text from Trenton. Hey sis, need to talk ASAP. Got huge news about that investment opportunity. Bradley glanced at the message. Has he mentioned his crypto venture to you? Multiple times. Why? Because your father kept a separate file on Trenton's business activities. He pulled out another folder, including some interesting expense claims against your father's company. The documents inside made my blood run cold. Forged signatures, inflated expenses, fake business meetings, all charged to Dad's corporate account. He was stealing, I whispered. Your father discovered it 2 months before his diagnosis. He kept the evidence but didn't confront Trenton. He wanted you to have all the cards when the time came. My phone buzzed again. Nicole this time. You need to see this. Can you meet for lunch? An hour later, I sat across from my best friend at our usual cafe. She slid her tablet across the table, showing me a business news article. Trenton's last startup, she said. Complete scam. Investors lost everything. I scanned the article. Words jumped out. Fraudulent claims, misappropriated funds, pending investigations. There's more. Nicole leaned forward. I was talking to Lucy, Trenton's on-again, off-again girlfriend. She said he's desperate for cash. Something about crypto investors threatening legal action. So that's why he's pushing so hard for control of Dad's estate. He needs a bailout. Nicole stirred her latte. And Sandra's enabling him because her lifestyle depends on it. Did you know she maxed out 3 credit cards last month? I pulled out my phone and snapped pictures of the article, sending them to Bradley. His response was immediate. Add it to the file. Meeting tomorrow at 2. Back at Dad's house, I still couldn't think of it as Sandra's. I made my way to his study. Everything was exactly as he'd left it, down to the half-empty coffee mug on his desk. As I ran my fingers along the familiar leather blotter, something caught my eye. A document partially hidden under some papers bearing Trenton's distinctive signature. I pulled it out carefully. It was an insurance claim form dated 3 months before Dad's death. Trenton had forged Dad's signature, claiming thousands in fake business expenses. "What are you doing in here?" I jumped. Sandra stood in the doorway, her face a mask of concern. "Just remembering," I said, discreetly sliding the form into my jacket. "Oh, sweetie." She stepped into the room. "I know it's hard. Have you thought more about those papers I gave you?" "Actually, yes." I forced a smile. "I'm meeting with a financial advisor tomorrow to understand everything better." Sandra's expression flickered. "An advisor? Honey, that's not necessary. We can explain everything you need to know." "I just want to be thorough. Dad always said—" "Your father," she cut in, "isn't here anymore. We need to think about the living." My phone buzzed yet again. "Bradley, don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. Tomorrow will change everything." "You're right," I said to Sandra, heading for the door. "We need to think about the living, all of us." She called after me, "Don't forget about those papers. The sooner we sort this out, the better." In my car, I pulled out the forged insurance claim and snapped a photo, sending it to Bradley. "Insurance fraud, huh? Let's add that to the file." His response came quickly. "Perfect. The pieces are in place. Tomorrow we spring the trap." I started the engine, glancing back at the house. Through the study window, I could see Sandra on the phone, gesturing animatedly. Probably calling Trenton, planning their next move. They thought they were so clever, so careful. They had no idea that Dad had spent his final months building a case against them, documenting every lie, every scheme, every manipulation. Tomorrow they'd learn exactly what kind of man they'd tried to steal from, and exactly what kind of daughter he'd raised. I pulled out of the driveway, the forged document safely tucked in my jacket. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people destroy themselves. And thanks to Dad's foresight, I had front row seats to the show. "We're having a little dinner party," Sandra announced over the phone. "Just family and a few close friends to discuss the estate." I recognized the strategy immediately. Strength in numbers, social pressure, the illusion of consensus. Dad had warned me about this too. "That sounds lovely," I said, playing along. "Who's coming?" "Oh, just us. Melvin from the financial office and a few others. Very casual. 7 o'clock. Melvin, Dad's financial advisor and estate executor. I smiled, knowing exactly why they'd invited him. The dining room sparkled that evening. Sandra had pulled out all the stops, crystal glasses, silver candlesticks, her best china. Trenton worked the room in an expensive suit, champagne in hand. "Sophie!" He embraced me with manufactured warmth. "You remember Lucy, right?" His girlfriend smiled nervously from across the room. She looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with her wine glass. Melvin arrived precisely at 7, briefcase in hand. Sandra swooped in immediately, steering him toward the appetizers. "Melvin, darling, we're so glad you could join us. We have so much to discuss." Dinner was a master class in manipulation. Sandra dominated the conversation, painting a picture of family unity while dropping subtle hints about my fragile state and their responsibility to help. Sophie's been through so much, she sighed, passing the potatoes. We just want to make things easier for her. Absolutely, Trenton chimed in. Dad would want us to handle things as a family. I watched Melvin carefully. He ate silently, his face unreadable. Actually, Sandra set down her fork. We have those transfer papers right here. Sophie, dear, why don't we sort this out now, with everyone present? She produced the documents from a drawer along with an expensive pen. I glanced around the table, letting them see my hesitation. It's really quite simple. Trenton leaned forward. Just your signature and we'll handle everything. The room grew quiet. All eyes were on me. Perhaps, Melvin spoke for the first time, we should review the actual terms of Kenneth's estate first. Sandra's smile tightened. Oh, that's not necessary. Actually, it is. Melvin opened his briefcase. As executor, I'm legally obligated to ensure everyone understands the situation. He pulled out a thick document. Kenneth was very specific about his wishes. The entire estate, including life insurance, investments, and property, is held in an irrevocable trust. Sophie is the sole beneficiary and controller. The silence was deafening. That's impossible. Trenton's voice cracked. Dad wouldn't. Furthermore, Melvin continued, any attempt to transfer control or access these assets without Sophie's explicit consent would constitute fraud. Sandra's face went white. There must be some mistake. Kenneth and I discussed. There's no mistake. Melvin's tone was final. Everything was arranged months ago with multiple witnesses and ironclad documentation. Trenton slammed his fist on the table. This is bullshit. We're his family, too. Trenton, Sandra hissed, but it was too late. No, he stood up, face red. This isn't right. Dad promised me. We were going to. Going to what? I asked quietly. Invest it all in crypto? Lucy suddenly stood up. I need to go, she mumbled, practically running from the room. This isn't what your father wanted. Sandra's voice turned cold. He never meant for it to go this way. Actually, I pulled out my phone. He did. Would you like to hear the recording of him saying exactly that? Sandra's eyes widened. Recording? Dad was very thorough in his final months, documented everything, including some very interesting conversations about plans for his money after he was gone. Trenton lunged forward, but Melvin was faster, stepping between us. I suggest, he said firmly, that everyone take some time to process this information. Legally, the situation is clear. How we proceed from here is up to Sophie. You ungrateful little... Sandra caught herself forcing a smile. Sweetie, you're obviously overwhelmed. Let's discuss this when you're thinking more clearly. I stood up, gathering my things. I'm thinking very clearly. Dad made sure of that. As I headed for the door, Melvin caught my arm. He pressed a note into my hand. There's something you need to know. Call me. Behind me, I could hear Sandra and Trenton arguing in harsh whispers. Their perfect dinner party had imploded spectacularly. In my car, I unfolded Melvin's note. 2 words, check appraisals. My phone buzzed with a text from Nicole. How did it go? I smiled, typing back, exactly as Dad planned. But tomorrow's when it gets interesting. Through the dining room window, I could see Sandra frantically making phone calls while Trenton paced. Their world was starting to crumble, and they didn't even know the best part yet. Dad always said timing was everything, and the time for truth was just beginning. Melvin's office was a maze of filing cabinets and computer screens. He pulled up documents while I sipped coffee from a paper cup. Look at these, he said, pointing to 2 appraisal reports. The first one was filed 3 months ago. when your father was still alive. The second was submitted last week. The difference was staggering. The house value had mysteriously dropped by almost 40%. Sandra's trying to undervalue the estate, Melvin explained. She also filed backdated caregiver expense claims totaling nearly 6 figures. Caregiver expenses? I nearly choked on my coffee. She barely spent 10 minutes a day with him. Your father anticipated this. Melvin opened a drawer and pulled out a leather-bound book. He kept detailed logs of his care, including who was actually there. The hospice staff signed off on every entry. The book showed exactly what I remembered: Sandra's constant absences, her shopping trips during Dad's chemotherapy sessions, the times she was too busy to drive him to appointments. My phone buzzed. A text from Lucy. Can we meet? There's something you need to hear. An hour later, I sat across from Trenton's girlfriend at a quiet cafe across town. Her hand shook as she pulled out her phone. I recorded this last month, she said. I didn't know what to do with it until now. She pressed play. Sandra's voice filled the air. She's too soft. We'll have it all by the end of the month. Kenneth was an idiot to trust her with anything. Trenton's laugh followed. Dad always had a blind spot when it came to Sophie, but once we get control of the trust, just stick to the plan, Sandra cut in. Play nice, act concerned, she'll crack eventually. Lucy stopped the recording. There's more. They've been planning this for months, even before your dad got sick. Trenton, he forged documents, tried to access accounts. Why are you showing me this? Because I'm done. Lucy's voice cracked. Trenton's not who I thought he was. Last night after the dinner party, he was talking about ways to threaten you, to force you to sign over control. My phone buzzed again. Bradley this time. Meeting in 20 minutes, bringing the final paperwork. Lucy, I said carefully, would you be willing to make a statement, officially? She nodded, wiping her eyes. I have more recordings, text messages too. At Bradley's office, everything moved quickly. He listened to Lucy's recording, reviewed her evidence, and added it all to his growing file. This is perfect, he said, making notes. Combined with your father's documentation and Melvin's findings, we have everything we need. For what? To end this. He looked up. Your father left very specific instructions about what to do if they tried anything like this. Are you ready to follow through? Absolutely. It won't be pretty, he warned. Once we move, there's no going back. Your relationship with them will be destroyed. I thought about Sandra's fake sympathy, Trenton's manipulative smiles, the way they'd circled Dad like vultures even before he died. What relationship? I asked. They destroyed that themselves. My phone lit up with texts from both of them. Sandra, sweetie, let's talk about yesterday. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Trenton, sis, don't do anything stupid. Think about the family. Bradley read the messages over my shoulder. They're getting desperate? Good. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. We'll have them come here under the pretense of negotiation. And then we show them exactly what your father prepared for this moment. He smiled grimly. They thought they were so clever, but Kenneth was always 10 steps ahead. I left Bradley's office with a thick folder of evidence and a plan in motion. In the parking lot, I called Nicole. You won't believe what Lucy showed me, I started. Actually, Nicole interrupted, I just got some interesting news. Remember that crypto investment Trenton kept pushing? The whole thing collapsed this morning. Investors lost everything. I laughed. The timing couldn't have been better. Sophie? Nicole sounded worried. Are you okay? I'm perfect, I said, starting my car. Everything's falling into place exactly as Dad planned. At home, I opened Dad's journal, the real one, not the decoy Sandra had found in his desk. The last entry was dated 3 days before his death. Sophie, when you read this, they'll have shown their true colors. Remember what I taught you. Patience is everything. Let them think they're winning. Let them get cocky. Then show them what real strength looks like. I closed the journal and looked at tomorrow's meeting time in my calendar. In less than 24 hours, Sandra and Trenton would learn exactly what Dad had prepared for them. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just serving justice. It's watching the guilty destroy themselves with their own greed. Sandra and Trenton arrived at Bradley's office exactly on time, both wearing their most expensive clothes, power dressing for what they thought would be their moment of triumph. "Sophie, darling," Sandra air-kissed my cheek, "I'm so glad we can finally sort this out." Trenton nodded, adjusting his Italian silk tie. "Like adults, right, sis?" Bradley gestured to the conference room. "Please have a seat. We have quite a bit to discuss." They settled into the leather chairs with confident smiles. Sandra pulled out the transfer papers again, her personal holy grail. "Before we begin," Bradley said, setting up a small recorder, "I need to confirm this meeting is being recorded for legal purposes." "Is that really necessary?" Sandra's smile flickered. "Oh, yes," I said softly, "just like your recordings were necessary." Their faces froze. Bradley pressed play on another device, and Sandra's voice filled the room. "She's too soft. We'll have it all by the end of the month." "Where did you—" Trenton started. "Lucy says hello," I interrupted. "She had quite a collection of your greatest hits." Bradley pulled out the first folder. "Let's start with the forged expense claims, shall we? Specifically, the ones you submitted to Kenneth's company, Trenton." That's not—" "And then," Bradley continued, "we have Sandra's falsified caregiver logs, claiming payment for services never rendered while Kenneth was ill." Sandra's face went from pale to red. "How dare you? I took care of him." "Really?" I opened Dad's journal. "According to the hospice staff, you missed 37 appointments. You were shopping at Nordstrom during his first chemotherapy session." "You're twisting things," she sputtered. "No, you did that all by yourself." I nodded to Bradley, who produced another document. "Dad kept records of everything, every conversation, every lie, every manipulation." Trenton leaned forward, his confidence cracking. "Listen, whatever you think you have—" "We have everything." Bradley's voice was steel, "including evidence of your attempted insurance fraud, your failed crypto scheme, and your plans to coerce Sophie into signing over her inheritance." "This is ridiculous." Sandra stood up. "Kenneth would never—" "Actually," I cut in, "this is exactly what Dad planned. He knew what you were long before he died. Every move you've made, he predicted it, prepared for it." Bradley opened the final folder. "Kenneth left very specific instructions. Sandra and Trenton are entitled only to what they can prove they legitimately contributed to the estate." "Which is exactly $0, I added. The silence was devastating. "You can't do this!" Trenton's voice shook. "I'm his son." "Stepson," Bradley corrected, "with no legal claim to the estate." Sandra's mask finally cracked. "You ungrateful little bitch! After everything we did—" "Everything you did?" I stood up slowly. "You mean lying to him, stealing from him, planning to rob his daughter while his body was still warm?" "We were family!" she screamed. "No," I said quietly. "You were parasites, and Dad cut you out like the cancer you are." Trenton lunged across the table, reaching for my throat. Bradley's security team, waiting just outside, burst in and restrained him. "That's assault," Bradley noted calmly. "Would you like to press charges, Sophie?" Sandra grabbed her purse, her perfectly manicured hands shaking. "This isn't over. You have no idea what you're doing." "Actually, I do. Dad made sure of that." I smiled. You have 24 hours to remove your belongings from his house. Anything left behind will be donated. You can't throw me out. I'm his wife. Widow, Bradley corrected, with no claim to the property. It's all in the trust. As security escorted them out, Trenton turned back. You'll regret this. Blood or not, you'll regret this. The door closed behind them, muffling Sandra's hysterical threats. Well, Bradley gathered the documents. That went exactly as your father predicted. I sank into a chair, adrenaline finally fading. He really did think of everything. Kenneth was a brilliant man. Bradley handed me a final envelope. This is for you. He asked me to give it to you after this meeting. Inside was a letter in Dad's handwriting. Sophie, if you're reading this, they showed their true colors, just as I knew they would. I'm sorry for bringing them into our lives, but I'm proud of how you handled it. Remember, this wasn't about revenge. It was about justice, about protecting what I built for you. Love, Dad. Through the window, I watched Sandra and Trenton arguing in the parking lot. Their perfect world was crumbling, and they had no one to blame but themselves. What now? I asked Bradley. Now? He smiled. Now we watch them face the consequences of their actions. Your father's final lesson in karma. The fallout was swift and merciless. Within a week, Sandra's country club membership was revoked. She couldn't afford the dues. Trenton's crypto investors filed a class action lawsuit, forcing him to declare bankruptcy. I watched it all unfold from a distance like a slow-motion car crash. Did you see this? Nicole pushed her phone across my kitchen counter. The local business journal's headline read, Tech Entrepreneur Faces Federal Investigation Over Investment Scheme. Karma's not just a concept, I said, pouring more coffee. It's a promise. Sophie. Nicole hesitated. Are you okay? You seem different lately. Different how? Colder, more calculated. She fidgeted with her cup. Some people are saying you orchestrated their downfall. They orchestrated their own downfall. I just refuse to be their victim. My phone buzzed. A text from Lucy. Trenton's telling everyone you stole his inheritance. He's getting scary. Be careful. As if on cue, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Sandra, looking decidedly less polished than usual. You need to see this, I told Nicole, opening the door. Sandra burst in, clutching her designer bag, probably one of her last. We need to talk. No, we don't. I left the door open. Get out, please, her voice cracked. They're repossessing my car. Trenton's facing criminal charges. We have nowhere to go. Nicole watched silently from the kitchen. That sounds like a you problem, I said. Your father wouldn't want this. Sandra's mascara was running. He loved us. No, he saw through you, both of you, every scheme, every lie. He documented it all. We can work something out, she pleaded. A monthly allowance, maybe, for appearances' sake? I laughed. Appearances? Is that what you're worried about? Not the fact that you tried to steal everything my father worked for? You don't understand what it's like to lose everything. Actually, I do. I lost my father. The only difference is I didn't try to profit from his death. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Trenton, looking disheveled and desperate. You bitch, he slurred, pushing past me. You ruined everything. Trenton, don't. Sandra grabbed his arm. No, let him talk, I said calmly, pressing record on my phone. Let's hear exactly what he has to say. You think you're so smart, he sneered. Dad's perfect little princess. You have no idea what's coming. Is that a threat? It's a promise. He stepped closer. You think this is over? We're just getting started. Nicole moved between us. I'm calling the police. Go ahead, Trenton laughed hysterically. Tell them how she stole our inheritance, how you forged documents, I interrupted. Committed fraud, Tried to extort me? I have it all on tape, Trenton. Every threat, every scheme. You're bluffing. I played the recording from his crypto investor meeting, the one Lucy provided. His face went white. Get out, I said quietly. Both of you, before I add harassment and breaking and entering to the criminal complaints. This isn't over, Sandra hissed, dragging Trenton toward the door. Actually, it is. I held up my phone, and I've recorded this whole conversation. After they left, Nicole turned to me. That was intense. That was necessary. Was it? She looked troubled. Sophie, I get that they're awful people, but this revenge thing, it's changing you. Maybe I needed to change. I locked the door. Maybe being nice and trusting is what got Dad into this mess in the first place. Your dad was a good man. And look where it got him. Married to a gold digger who couldn't even be bothered to hold his hand during chemo. My phone buzzed again. Bradley. Police report filed. Restraining order in process. They won't bother you again. Nicole gathered her things. I should go. Just think about what I said, okay? About who you're becoming. After she left, I stood in my quiet kitchen, staring at Dad's photo on the fridge. He was smiling, healthy before Sandra entered our lives. Another text came through, this time from Melvin. Sandra's trying to contest the will. Don't worry, it won't go anywhere, but be prepared for more drama. I poured a glass of wine and walked to my home office. On the desk sat Dad's journal, his last gift to me. I opened to his final entry. Sometimes protecting what's right means being seen as the villain. I learned that too late. Don't make my mistake. Outside, I could hear Sandra's voice carrying from the street, still arguing with Trenton. Their world was imploding, and they were dragging everyone down with them. You were right, Dad, I whispered to the empty room. I won, but I wish I didn't have to. The autumn wind scattered leaves across Dad's headstone as I placed fresh flowers beside it. The morning was quiet, peaceful, until footsteps crunched behind me. I thought I might find you here, Nicole said softly. I didn't turn around. How did you know? It's his birthday. Where else would you be? She sat beside me on the cold ground, not caring about her designer jeans. We stayed silent for a moment, watching leaves dance across the marble. Did you see the news? She finally asked. I nodded. Trenton's sentencing had made the local papers. 2 years for fraud, plus restitution to his investors. Sandra had fled to her sister's place in Florida, leaving a wake of unpaid bills and broken relationships. You know what's strange? I traced Dad's name with my finger. I thought winning would feel better than this. Maybe because it wasn't really about winning. A text buzzed through. Bradley. Sandra's final appeal denied. Trust remains intact. It's over. He was right about everything, I said, showing Nicole the message. Dad predicted every move they'd make, every lie they'd tell. I just followed his playbook. And now? Now I run his foundation, help people who actually deserve it. I smiled slightly. Last week we funded scholarships for 3 kids who lost parents to cancer. Dad would have loved that. Nicole squeezed my hand. He'd be proud of you, not just for protecting his legacy, but for what you're doing with it. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far, if there was another way. They made their choices, Nicole said firmly. You just refused to be their victim. Another text came through, Lucy this time. Thank you for the job at the foundation. It means everything. See? Nicole nodded at my phone. Good things can come from bad situations. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of autumn leaves and change. In the distance, I saw Melvin walking toward us, carrying a familiar leather-bound book. I found this in your father's old files, he said, handing it to me. It's different from his other journals. The pages were filled with photos, me as a baby, graduating college, working at my first job. Between them were letters he'd written but never sent, describing his pride, his hopes, his fears. "Read the last page," Melvin said quietly. Dad's handwriting was shaky but clear. "Sophie, by now you've faced them down, protected what matters. But remember, the best revenge isn't in destroying others, it's in living well, in being better than those who tried to hurt you. That's your real inheritance, not the money, but the strength to stand up for what's right. Love always, Dad." "He knew," I whispered. "He knew I'd struggle with the aftermath." "Of course he did," Nicole said. "He was your father." Melvin cleared his throat. "The foundation board meets tomorrow. We're reviewing new grant applications." "Including the cancer research funding?" He nodded. "Your father would have approved." Standing up, I brushed leaves from my clothes. The morning sun broke through the clouds, warming the cold marble of Dad's headstone. "I've been thinking," I said, "about starting a support program for families dealing with terminal illness to help them prepare legally and emotionally." "That's perfect," Nicole smiled, turning pain into purpose. My phone buzzed one last time, an email from Bradley. "Sandra's sister called. She's asking for help with medical bills. What do you want me to do?" I stared at the message, feeling the weight of Dad's journal in my hands. The easy answer would be to ignore it, to let Sandra face the consequences of her actions alone. But Dad's words echoed in my mind. The best revenge is living well. "Tell her to apply through the foundation," I typed back, "like everyone else. No special treatment, but no automatic rejection either." "That's generous," Melvin observed. "No," I said, looking at Dad's name etched in stone. "That's what he would have done, being better than those who hurt you, remember?" Nicole linked her arm through mine as we walked back to our cars. "So what now?" "Now?" I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in months. "Now we help people. We build something good. We honor his name by being better, not bitter." The autumn wind picked up again, scattering more leaves across the cemetery. Behind us, Dad's headstone caught the morning light, casting a long shadow that pointed forward, toward tomorrow, toward possibility, toward hope. I honored his name by ruining theirs, but that was just the beginning. The real tribute would be in what I built from here. Something lasting, something meaningful, something that would make him proud. Not just his daughter who won, but his daughter who learned, grew, and chose to be better. That's the inheritance he really wanted me to claim.
The gold shutters hit me like a slap across the face. I sat in my car, staring at my childhood home, or what used to be my childhood home, wondering if exhaustion had finally broken my grip on reality. The modest colonial I'd inherited from my mother now looked like some wannabe Instagram influencer's fever dream. My name is Paula, and 8 weeks ago I left to care for my dying grandmother. Now, pulling into the driveway past garish lawn furniture and hot pink flower beds, I felt like Alice tumbling down a very tacky rabbit hole. "Paula, you're finally back!" Carol's voice cut through my daze as I stepped out of the car. My stepmother glided down the front steps in designer yoga wear, holding what appeared to be a glass of water with floating citrus slices. "Bet you didn't expect such a transformation!" I accepted the glass mechanically, my eyes fixed on the enormous crystal chandelier visible through the front window. "What happened?" "Oh, darling, I knew you needed a change after everything with your grandmother. The house was so dated." Carol's perfectly lined lips curved into what might have been meant as sympathy. "I took care of everything while you were away. Wait until you see inside." Inside was worse, so much worse. Every wall screamed with crushed velvet wallpaper in jewel tones. Abstract art in gilt frames crowded every surface. The comfortable furniture I'd grown up with had vanished, replaced by angular pieces that looked expensive and felt like sitting on concrete. "Your emergency fund card came in so handy," Carol chirped, trailing behind me as I moved numbly through the rooms. The designer, Maximus Gray, absolute genius, had such vision, though we did go a tiny bit over budget. I stopped dead. "You used my emergency card?" "Well, yes. Ernest said it would be fine. Didn't you get my texts?" My father chose that moment to emerge from his study, looking everywhere but at me. "Paula, honey, you're home. Carol meant well. She wanted to surprise you." I pulled out my phone, hands shaking slightly as I checked my banking app. The credit card I'd set aside strictly for emergencies showed a balance of 41,023.42. "Where's Mom's piano?" I asked, staring at the empty corner where the beloved Steinway had lived for 30 years. "Oh, that old thing," Carol waved dismissively. "It clashed with the theme. I had it donated somewhere. But look at this gorgeous accent table we got instead." I excused myself, claiming jet lag, and retreated to my bedroom. Even there, the walls had been painted a sickening shade of mauve. I sank onto my bed, at least that remained unchanged, and pulled up my text messages. To Tyson. "How fast can we move on what we discussed?" His reply came quickly. "Give me 48 hours. Document everything." I started taking photos, methodically capturing every gaudy change. In my desk drawer, I found a crumpled receipt that made my blood run cold. A design consultation fee for Maximus Gray, dated 3 weeks ago. Long before any of this redecorating nightmare had started, a knock at my door made me jump. "Paula?" My father's voice, hesitant. "Carol's planning a welcome home dinner. She's ordered from that Italian place you like. I'm not hungry," I called back, still staring at the receipt. "Long drive. I just need sleep." "New beginnings are good, honey," he said through the door. "Change can be good." I didn't answer. After a moment, his footsteps retreated down the hall. I could hear Carol's voice floating up from downstairs, already planning the next phase of her improvements. My phone buzzed again. Tyson. "Found anything interesting yet?" I snapped a photo of the receipt and sent it to him. Then I opened my laptop and started documenting every unauthorized charge, every missing item, every change made without my knowledge or consent. The quiet rage building in my chest felt almost calm, like the eye of a hurricane. They thought I was too nice, too passive to fight back. Carol probably assumed I'd cry a little and then accept it, like I'd accepted her marrying my father 7 years ago, like I'd accepted her slowly taking over family holidays, rewriting our traditions, pushing away my mother's memory inch by inch. But this time she'd gone too far. This wasn't just about ugly wallpaper or missing furniture. This was about boundaries, respect, and the last tangible connection to my mother I had left. My phone lit up with another text, this time from my best friend Addison. "You home yet? How bad is it?" I typed back. "Worse than we imagined, but don't worry, I know exactly what I'm going to do." She always knew this would happen. I sat across from Tyson in his office, clutching a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. "Grandma warned me about Carol before the end. Tell me exactly what she said." Tyson leaned forward, legal pad ready. He'd been my grandmother's lawyer for years before becoming mine, and his familiar office felt like a sanctuary after the chaos at home. She said, "Paula, that woman's been eyeing your inheritance since day one. The minute you show weakness, she'll pounce." The memory of my grandmother's last lucid conversation made my throat tight. "I should have listened. You were caring for a dying relative. That's not weakness." Tyson pulled out a thick folder. "Now, let's talk strategy. The house is legally yours. Sole inheritance from your mother. Ironclad documentation right here. Carol has no claim to it whatsoever." "But my father is just a resident. He has no ownership rights." Tyson spread out several documents. "What we're looking at here is financial abuse, unauthorized access to funds, and damage to personal property. The credit card charges alone are enough for criminal charges." My phone buzzed. Addison calling. I put her on speaker. "Girl, I just drove past your house," she said. "Those shutters are a crime against humanity. Please tell me you're with Tyson right now." "We're building the case," I replied. "But Carol's already trying to lock me out of parts of the house. She changed the master bedroom locks yesterday." "Document everything," Tyson and Addison said simultaneously. "This isn't just revenge, Paula," Addison continued. "You're reclaiming what's legally yours. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty about that." A knock at Tyson's door interrupted us. His secretary poked her head in. "Mr. Bennett, the property assessor's report just came in." Tyson scanned the document, his eyebrows rising. "Well, this is interesting. According to this, Carol's improvements have actually decreased your home's value by about 30%. The structural changes weren't properly permitted." "Structural changes?" My stomach dropped. "What structural changes?" "Looks like they removed a load-bearing wall to create that open concept layout you mentioned." I pressed my fingers to my temples. "So, not only did she steal my money and destroy my mother's home, she might have actually damaged the house itself." "This keeps getting better," Tyson muttered, making notes. "We can add endangerment to the list of—" My phone buzzed again. This time it was Ingrid, our neighbor who'd lived next door since before I was born. "Paula, do you have a minute? I need to tell you something. About Carol." "I'll call you back," I told her, then turned to Tyson. "How fast can we move on the eviction?" "Given the circumstances, we could have it ready within days. But are you sure you want to go that route? It means evicting your father, too." The memory of his weak, new beginnings excuse flashed through my mind. He made his choice when he let her empty my accounts. "Paula," Addison's voice was gentle through the speaker. "Have you talked to him?" "Really talked to him? I tried this morning. Want to know what he said? That I'm too emotional and too possessive of the past, that I never could move forward." My laugh felt bitter. "Apparently, moving forward means letting Carol destroy everything my mother built." Tyson's phone pinged. He checked it, and his expression darkened. "We might need to move faster than planned. Carol just tried to list the house for sale on 3 different real estate websites." "She what?" I stood up so fast my chair nearly toppled. "Don't worry, it's illegal. I've already contacted the sites to have the listings removed, but it shows intent." "Intent to steal my house out from under me," I said flatly. "Exactly. I'll start the paperwork today." Tyson began gathering documents. "In the meantime, don't confront her. Act normal. We don't want to tip our hand." My phone lit up with a text from Ingrid. "Please call when you can. It's about Carol and that designer she hired. I saw something last month that you need to know." One more thing, Tyson said as I gathered my things. Change all your passwords, bank accounts, social media, everything, and check your credit report. Someone this bold might try other forms of identity theft. I nodded, already feeling more centered than I had since coming home. Having a plan helped. Having proof helped more. Thanks, Tyson, for everything. Don't thank me yet. He smiled grimly. Save that for when we serve them the papers. Walking to my car, I finally called Ingrid back. Her first words made me stop dead in my tracks. Paula, I don't know how to tell you this, but last month I saw Carol kissing that designer through your kitchen window. They didn't know I was in my garden. I gripped my keys tighter, pieces clicking into place. Tell me everything. The security camera footage from my grandmother's house loaded slowly, frame by frame. Carol had stayed there during the initial remodeling, claiming she needed to supervise the workers. Now I knew what kind of supervision she'd been doing. I clicked through the archived footage until I found what I was looking for. Carol and Maximus, heads bent together over blueprints spread across my grandmother's antique dining table. The timestamp showed 2:1:14 a.m. Look at this, I whispered to Addison, who was watching over my shoulder. These aren't just renovation plans. They're talking about converting the whole house into some kind of luxury bed and breakfast. Wait, pause it there. Addison pointed at the screen. That document, it lists Maximus as business partner. I zoomed in, my hands shaking slightly. They were planning this for months. The renovation was just phase 1. Paula! My father's voice made us both jump. He stood in the doorway of my bedroom, looking uncomfortable. Can we talk? Addison squeezed my shoulder and slipped past him. I'll call you later, she mouthed. As soon as she was gone, I turned to face him. About what, Dad? The unauthorized renovations? The stolen money? Or how about Mum's piano? You're being too emotional about this. He sighed, running a hand through his thinning hair. Carol just wanted to help modernize things. You never could move forward, Paula, always clinging to the past. The past? I pulled up the banking app on my phone. Is $42,000 of unauthorized spending in the past? Because that seems pretty current to me. She was trying to increase the property value. It's my property! The words burst out louder than I intended. My house, Dad. Mom left it to me. And you've turned it into a shrine. His voice hardened. Every room frozen in time like some sort of museum. Carol's right. It's not healthy. I stared at him, really looked at him for the first time since coming home. When had he become this stranger who valued his new wife's whims over his daughter's inheritance? I'm going to take pictures of the renovations, I said quietly. For insurance purposes. He hesitated in the doorway. Paula, please, can't we just... Just what, Dad? Pretend everything's fine? Move forward? I turned away, my camera already in hand. Oh, I think we're done here. Room by room, I documented the damage. The gaudy wallpaper, the structural changes, the empty spaces where family heirlooms had been. In the living room, the blank spot where Mom's piano had stood felt like an open wound. Oh, are you photographing my improvements? Carol appeared, all false brightness. The piano went to a lovely church, by the way. It clashed with our new aesthetic. Our? I kept my voice neutral, remembering Tyson's advice. Well, of course! We're family! She perched on one of her hideous new chairs. Actually, I wanted to discuss something with you. Ernest and I have been thinking, Wouldn't it make sense to put both our names on the deed? As co-owners? I nearly dropped my camera. Co-owners? Just to make things official, we'd invest more, really boost the resale value. She pulled out a document. I have the paperwork right here. Just a simple amendment to the current arrangement. I'll think about it, I said, snapping a photo of the papers when she wasn't looking. Don't take too long, dear. Opportunities like this don't last forever. As soon as she left, I texted everything to Tyson. The photos, the security footage, Carol's generous offer. His response came quickly. Don't sign anything. Coming by tomorrow with the final documents. I was about to reply when something caught my eye. A plain white envelope poking out of the mail slot. No return address, no postmark. Just my name in unfamiliar handwriting. Inside were screenshots of text messages between Carol and Maximus, dated over the past 3 months. She's still at her grandmother's. Perfect timing. Once we get her to sign over the partial ownership, the rest will be easy. What about Ernest? He'll do whatever I say. The dead weight we're going to shake off soon enough. My hands were steady as I added the screenshots to my evidence file. The last piece of my mother's legacy, the home she'd loved so much. They'd planned to take it all along. Tyson, I texted, how soon can we serve those eviction papers? His reply was immediate. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. sharp. I looked around at the garish walls, the tasteless furniture, all the physical proof of their betrayal. Tomorrow couldn't come soon enough. My phone buzzed one more time. Addison. You okay? No, I wrote back. But I will be. Would anyone like more pancakes? I held up the serving plate at breakfast, smiling pleasantly. Carol looked suspicious at my sudden domesticity, but helped herself to another stack. These are delicious, honey, my father said, relief evident in his voice. He probably thought I'd come around to their point of view. Old family recipe, I replied, watching Carol drench her plate in syrup. Mom used to make them every Sunday. Carol's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Speaking of family matters, have you thought about our discussion? About the deed? Actually, I have. I poured myself more coffee, buying time. It's such a big decision. Maybe we should meet with a lawyer, make sure everything's properly handled. Oh, I've already spoken to someone. Carol brightened. He said it's a simple amendment. We could sign today. My phone buzzed quietly in my pocket. Tyson confirming the morning's arrangements. I kept my expression neutral. That's so thoughtful of you, Carol, but I'd like to review everything first. Of course, of course. She waved her fork dismissively. Though I do have an exciting proposition for you. Maximus and I have been discussing the possibility of converting part of the house into a boutique bed and breakfast. The potential profits would be amazing. I recorded every word on my phone, hidden beneath the table. Tell me more about that. Well, with the right investment, say a home equity line of credit, we could transform this place into something truly spectacular. Carol's eyes gleamed. I've already looked into the paperwork. A home equity line? I took another sip of coffee. Wouldn't we need my signature for that? Something flickered across Carol's face, too quick to catch. Oh, just preliminary research. Nothing concrete yet. My father cleared his throat. Carol, maybe we should... Ernest, please. She cut him off with a sharp look. Paula, darling, I know change is hard, but think of the possibilities. With my vision and your property, we could create something magnificent. My phone vibrated again. Addison this time. Movers confirmed for 11 a.m. Police escort arranged. I need to think about it, I said, standing to clear the plates. Big changes like this take time to process. Don't take too long. Carol's voice had an edge now. Some opportunities have expiration dates. I escaped to my room, immediately calling Tyson. Please tell me everything's ready. More than ready. His voice was grim. Paula, we found something. Carol tried to apply for a home equity line of credit 3 days ago, using your name. My hands gripped the phone tighter. What? She forged your signature. Badly, thankfully. The bank flagged it immediately. I've added it to our documentation. A knock at my door made me jump. Paula? My father again. Carol wants to show us some design plans for the bed and breakfast idea. Coming, I called back, then whispered into the phone. How long until? 2 hours. Tyson replied. Just keep them talking. Document everything. Downstairs, Carol had transformed the dining room table into a vision board, complete with magazine cutouts and color swatches. I'm thinking we start with converting the east wing, she said, pointing to a floor plan. Maximus has connections with some excellent contractors. I'm sure he does, I murmured, snapping mental pictures of every document she showed me. And this would all be funded by the home equity line? Among other sources. Carol smiled, all teeth. We've already had interest from several investors. My father stood awkwardly to the side, examining a paint sample with far too much concentration. I wondered if he knew about the forged signature, about Carol's affair with Maximus, about any of it. What about Mom's study? I asked. The one you've kept locked since I got back. Carol's smile tightened. Oh, that's being completely reimagined. The antiques didn't fit the new aesthetic, so I had them placed in storage. Which storage facility? I'd have to check my records. She shuffled some papers. Now, about that deed amendment. My phone buzzed. Police and movers en route. ETA, 20 minutes. You ready? Tyson. I looked at Carol, still chattering about her grand plans. At my father, avoiding everyone's eyes. At the house my mother had loved, now warped beyond recognition. Actually, I said, standing up, I think it's time we discuss some amendments of my own. Carol's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? You'll see. I smiled, hearing the distant sound of vehicles pulling up outside. In fact, I think we're about to have some visitors who can explain everything. The doorbell rang, and Carol's face went pale as she glimpsed the police car through the window. My father finally looked up from his paint sample, confusion giving way to dawning realization. Paula, he started, what have you done? No, Dad. I walked to answer the door. The question is, what did you let her do? She's too meek to fight back. She practically gave me the house. Carol's voice carried clearly through the heating vent, her speakerphone conversation with Maximus echoing up to my bedroom. Once we get rid of all these dreary old memories, this place will be perfect for our little venture. I pressed record on my phone, adding to my growing collection of evidence. And Ernest? Maximus asked. Carol's laugh was sharp. Please. He's so afraid of conflict he'd let me sell his daughter's kidney if I batted my eyes enough. My hands shook as I texted Tyson. Need to move faster. They're planning something. Meet me at your mother's grave in 30 minutes, he replied, bringing final paperwork. The cemetery was quiet, morning fog still clinging to the headstones. I found Mom's marker easily. Simple, elegant, just like her. Someone had left fresh flowers recently. Probably Ingrid. Thought I'd find you here. Tyson appeared beside me, leather briefcase in hand. Ingrid signed her formal statement this morning, detailed everything she saw between Carol and Maximus. Did she mention the storage unit? I asked, thinking of Mom's missing antiques. Better. She got photos. He pulled out a document. Carol's been selling your mother's furniture piece by piece. We tracked most of it to high-end consignment shops. My throat tightened. The piano? Found it. Not at any church. It's listed for sale online. $30,000. I stared at Mom's headstone, remembering her playing that piano every evening after dinner. They really thought I wouldn't fight back. Speaking of fighting back, Tyson handed me another paper. The contractor Carol hired finally returned my calls. She never paid him. Tried to convince him you'd handle the bill. How much? $28,000. I've added it to the financial misconduct charges. My phone buzzed. The sheriff's department. Ms. Rogers, we're cleared for civil standby tomorrow morning. Shall we schedule the removal process for 9 a.m.? Do it, I told them, then turned to Tyson. What's our next move? He opened his briefcase. Sign these. It's all ready. The eviction notice, proof of financial abuse, documentation of property theft, evidence of attempted fraud with the home equity line. The moment you sign, we can proceed. The papers felt heavy in my hands. My father. We'll be served the same papers as Carol. He's complicit, Paula. The bank statements prove he knew about the credit card theft. He helped her forge your signature. I thought of Dad's weak excuses, his averted eyes, his endless enabling of Carol's schemes. Taking the pen Tyson offered, I signed every document. Now what? Now we wait. Tyson checked his watch. The sheriff will serve them papers first thing tomorrow. I've arranged for a moving company to remove their belongings. Everything they brought in, everything they bought with your money. It all goes. My phone lit up with a text from Ingrid. Carol just left the house with 3 large boxes. Looked like photo albums. She's stealing more memories, I whispered. No, she's panicking. Tyson was already dialing. She knows something's coming. I'll have the police intercept her. Walking back to my car, I spotted Carol's designer SUV pulling into the cemetery. I ducked behind a large monument, watching as she parked near the entrance. She was on her phone again, Maximus on speaker. Everything's falling apart. That nosy neighbor keeps watching the house, and Paula's been asking questions about the furniture. Calm down, Maximus soothed. She has no proof of anything. Besides, once we get the bed and breakfast running, it won't matter what she thinks. I suppose you're right. Carol sighed. She's always been such a doormat, just like her mother. Something snapped inside me. I stepped out from behind the monument, phone recording. Want to say that again, Carol? She shrieked, dropping her phone. Maximus's voice squawked from the speaker. Carol, what's happening? Just gathering more evidence, I said calmly, ending my recording. By the way, how's that home equity line application going? The one with my forged signature? Carol's face went from red to white. You can't find the words? I smiled. Don't worry. The sheriff's department will have plenty to say tomorrow morning. I walked away, leaving her sputtering into her phone. My own phone buzzed one last time. Addison. Everything okay? Better than okay, I replied. It's almost over. Behind me, I heard Carol's car door slam. her tires squealing as she fled the cemetery. But I kept walking, calm and steady, past my mother's grave and toward tomorrow. The time for being a doormat was over. "I ordered those croissants you love from the French bakery," I told Carol, setting the breakfast table with Mom's best china. "And, Dad, there's that special coffee you like. This is unexpected." Carol eyed the spread suspiciously. "What's the occasion? Can't I do something nice for my family?" I poured coffee, checking my phone. 8:47 a.m. "I have some news to share." My father settled into his usual chair, looking cautiously optimistic. "Good news, I hope." "You could say that." I heard vehicles pulling up outside, but kept my expression neutral. "Try the croissants. They're still warm." Carol took a delicate bite, then froze as heavy footsteps approached the front door. The doorbell rang, followed by sharp knocking. "I'll get it," I said, standing. "Keep eating." 2 police officers stood on the porch, flanked by Tyson and a team of movers. "Ms. Rogers, we're here for the civil standby." Right on time. I stepped aside to let them in. "They're in the dining room." Carol's voice rang out from behind me. "Paula, who's at the door? Why don't you come see for yourself?" I called back. She appeared in the hallway, coffee cup in hand, my father trailing behind her. The cup shattered on the floor when she saw the officers. "What is this?" she demanded. Tyson stepped forward, documents in hand. "Mrs. Rogers, Mr. Rogers, this is an eviction notice. You have 2 hours to collect your personal belongings. Anything purchased with Ms. Paula Rogers' funds, or taken from the house without her permission, will be confiscated." "Eviction?" My father's face went pale. "Paula, what are you doing?" "Exactly what I should have done weeks ago." I nodded to the officers. "They forged my signature on loan applications, stole over $40,000, sold family heirlooms without permission." "You can't prove any of that!" Carol's voice rose to a shriek. "Actually, we can." Tyson handed her a thick folder. "Bank records, security footage, witness statements, documentation of every item sold, every illegal renovation, every attempt to steal this property." Carol turned to my father. "Ernest, do something." But he just stood there, staring at the papers, trembling in his hands. "The credit card? You said Paula had approved it. The movers will help you pack," I said quietly. "Everything you came with, you can take. Everything you bought with my money stays." "You ungrateful little—" Carol lunged forward, but an officer stepped between us. "Ma'am, please remain calm. This is a legal proceeding." The movers began their work, efficiently boxing up Carol's designer clothes, her personal items. She followed them, screeching about lawyers and lawsuits, while my father sat heavily in a chair. "Paula," he tried. "We can talk about this. Like you talked to me about giving Carol access to my accounts, or selling Mom's piano." I watched another mover carefully wrap Carol's precious artwork. "Or helping her forge my signature." He flinched. "I never meant—" "To get caught?" I finished. "Save it, Dad. The papers are signed. It's done." "You'll regret this," Carol shouted from upstairs. "You think you've won? I'll sue you for everything. Like you sued your last 3 husbands?" Tyson called back. "The ones we found in our background check? Interesting pattern there, by the way." Carol appeared at the top of the stairs, face mottled red. "Who told you about—" "Your ex-husbands send their regards." Tyson smiled. "They're very interested in testifying about your financial habits." One of the movers approached me, holding something carefully. "Ms. Rogers, We found this hidden in the attic, Mom's keepsake box. I thought Carol had sold it with everything else. Inside, all our old photos were still there, along with Mom's jewelry and letters. She was going to take it, the mover whispered. Had it packed with her things. I hugged the box close, watching Carol and my father being escorted out. 2 hours later, the house was quiet again, empty of their presence, but still full of gaudy furniture and tacky decorations. The restoration company comes tomorrow, Tyson said, reviewing his checklist. They'll start removing the unauthorized changes. And Carol? Won't be bothering you again. The police want to discuss the forgery charges, and those ex-husbands are very chatty. I stood in the foyer, surrounded by the aftermath of their betrayal, clutching Mom's keepsake box. Through the window, I watched Carol's SUV pull away, my father in the passenger seat, neither looking back. You okay? Tyson asked softly. No, I answered honestly. But I will be. The house felt different already, lighter somehow, despite the awful decorations, like it could breathe again, like I could breathe again. Have you seen Carol's Facebook yet? Addison's voice crackled through my phone speaker as I supervised the restoration crew. Her whole social circle is imploding. I pulled up social media on my laptop. Carol's latest post, a long dramatic screed about betrayal and family values, had backfired spectacularly. Comments poured in from her country club friends, all distancing themselves. Did you see who commented? Addison asked. Maximus threw her under the bus completely. There it was, Maximus's carefully worded statement. I was misled about the ownership of the property, and never would have participated had I known the truth. My sincere apologies to Paula. Trying to save his reputation, I muttered, watching workers strip away the gaudy wallpaper. He's got 3 other renovation projects in the neighborhood. Speaking of neighborhood drama, Ingrid says Carol's been calling everyone, trying to spin the story her way. Nobody's buying it. A worker appeared in the doorway. Ms. Rogers, we found something behind this wall. In what used to be Mom's study, they'd discovered a hidden alcove. Inside was a stack of papers, documentation of every item Carol had sold, complete with prices and buyer information. She kept records, I said, thumbing through the pages. Every single thing she stole and sold. Perfect for the police investigation, Addison replied. How's your dad handling everything? As if summoned by her question, my phone buzzed with his number. I let it go to voicemail. That bad, huh? He's called 6 times since yesterday, left messages about understanding both sides and finding middle ground. I watched another section of wallpaper peel away, revealing Mom's original pale blue paint beneath. There is no middle ground for fraud. My phone buzzed again. Tyson this time. Carol's lawyer called. They want to settle. No deal. I texted back. Good girl, he replied. The DA's office is very interested in the forgery evidence. Addison whistled. From social butterfly to social pariah in under 48 hours. That's got to be some kind of record. A commotion outside drew me to the window. Maximus stood on the front lawn, arguing with Ingrid. I just want to explain my side, he was saying. Your side? Ingrid's voice carried clearly. You helped that woman steal from Paula while sleeping with her behind her husband's back. There is no your side. I opened the window wider to hear better. Carol manipulated me, Maximus protested. She said she owned the house, that Paula had approved everything. And the affair. Ingrid crossed her arms. Was that approved too? He fled to his luxury car, face red. 3 other neighbors had come out to watch, phones recording. Well, Addison commented, there goes his local business. My phone buzzed with another text, an unknown number, screenshots of conversations between Carol and Maximus, planning their future together. Once we get rid of the dead weight? Ernest is such a fool. Paula won't know what hit her. Who sent these? I asked Addison. Maximus's wife, she replied. Apparently Carol didn't know he was married. Neither did Ernest. The restoration crew called me back inside. They'd found Mom's original curtains in the attic, carefully packed away. As they hung them, the room started feeling like home again. Paula. Addison's voice softened. You've got everything you wanted. The house, justice, karma hitting them hard. Why do you sound so empty? I watched sunlight filter through Mom's curtains, casting familiar shadows. Because I'm alone in this big house. Because my father chose her lies over me. Because winning doesn't feel like winning. Want me to come over? No, I need to... I trailed off as another worker appeared. Ms. Rogers, there's someone here about a piano. In the driveway stood a delivery truck. The driver held out a clipboard. Delivery from Second Chance Consignment. All paid up, including restoration fees. Mom's piano. Someone had bought it back. A note was taped to the lid. Some things should stay in the family. Ingrid. My phone buzzed one last time. Addison. You're not alone. You never were. I stood in the doorway, watching them bring the piano home, while neighbors gathered to help direct the movers. Ingrid appeared with cookies. Someone else brought coffee. The house felt different now. Not just emptier without Carol's garish touches or my father's presence, but fuller, somehow, with people who actually cared. You okay? Ingrid asked, touching my arm. I looked at Mom's piano, back where it belonged, at the neighbors who'd stood by me, at the house, slowly returning to itself. Getting there, I said. And for the first time, I meant it. The wildflowers spread across the backyard like a painter's palette. Purple coneflowers, black-eyed Susans, and my grandmother's favorite orange butterfly weed. I knelt in the soft earth, planting another cluster of seedlings. Your mother would love this, Ingrid said, handing me a glass of iced tea. She always said gardens should run wild and free, unlike Carol's geometric shrubs and imported topiaries. I sat back on my heels, surveying our work. The landscapers are removing the last of those tomorrow. Inside, the house had already transformed. Mom's warm colours replaced the gaudy wallpaper. Her beloved books returned to their shelves. The piano sang again every evening, though my playing was rusty. The mail truck pulled up, and Ingrid fetched the delivery. Letter from your father, she said quietly. I recognized his handwriting on the envelope. Like the 5 previous letters, this one was thick with explanations and half apologies. Paula, I know you're still angry. Carol fooled us both. She had a way of making everything sound reasonable. I never meant to hurt you or disrespect your mother's memory. Please call me. We can fix this. Still blaming everyone but himself? Ingrid asked. Still can't admit he chose her lies over his own daughter. I folded the letter back into its envelope. Still doesn't understand this isn't about forgiveness. My phone buzzed. Addison sending a news link. Carol's latest court appearance had made the local papers. 3 ex-husbands had testified about similar schemes: marriage, financial fraud, elaborate renovation scams. The DA was pushing for jail time. Help me with this last section? I gestured to the remaining flowers. Grandmother always said plant in threes for good luck. As we worked, more neighbors stopped by. Someone brought fresh lemonade. Another shared cuttings from their garden. The house that Carol had tried to turn into a cold showcase had become a true home again, warm with friendship and life. "Package for you," called the UPS driver, struggling with a large box. Inside was the ugliest couch from Carol's renovation, the one that cost more than a car payment. I'd donated it to a local shelter last week. With it came a thank you note. "This hideous thing is surprisingly comfortable. Our residents love it. Karma works in mysterious ways. Sarah, Harbour House Director." I laughed, showing Ingrid the note. "Think Carol would appreciate knowing her designer couch is being used by the people she used to complain about at her charity luncheons. Speaking of karma..." Ingrid nodded toward the street. Maximus's distinctive car crept past, slowing near the house. 3 of his high-end clients had cancelled contracts after the scandal broke. His wife had gone public with the affair. Last I heard, he'd been reduced to small bathroom remodels in the next county. "Should we wave?" Ingrid asked mischievously. "Let him look," I said, turning back to my flowers. Let him see what he couldn't steal. The afternoon sun painted everything golden as we finished planting. I stood in the kitchen later, making grandmother's peach pie recipe while Ingrid shared stories about Mom, how they'd trade plants over the fence, how they'd drink coffee on summer mornings. "You know what your mother used to say?" Ingrid handed me another peach to slice. "She said, houses have souls. They remember who loved them and who tried to hurt them." "Is that why the roof leaked only over Carol's closet?" I grinned. "And why that fancy wallpaper wouldn't stick, and the imported chandelier kept flickering?" Ingrid winked. "Your mother's house knew what it was doing." The pie filled the kitchen with sweet warmth as it baked. Through the window, I watched the wildflowers dance in the evening breeze. No rigid rows or color schemes, just natural beauty, growing exactly as it should. My phone lit up with a text from Tyson. "Carol took a plea deal. Restitution, probation, no jail time. But the fraud charges stick. You okay with that?" I thought about Carol's social disgrace, her ruined reputation, her lost lifestyle, about my father's empty apologies and emptier house, about karma's perfect aim. "Yes," I replied. "Justice comes in many forms." Ingrid touched my shoulder. "Pie's ready." As we sat on the porch with warm pie and cold tea, watching the sunset paint the wildflowers in fire colors, I felt my mother's presence in every breath of evening air, in every petal and leaf, in every inch of the house she'd loved and left to me. Some people inherit furniture, some inherit bloodlines, some, like Carol, inherit the consequences of their choices. I inherited fire and learned how to use it. The wildflowers nodded in agreement, fierce and free, exactly as they were meant to be.
The day I decided to destroy my family started like any other Tuesday at Morrison & Beck. I'd just won a brutal securities fraud case, and the firm's partners were actually learning to pronounce my name correctly. Violet, not Mark's sister. I was reviewing case files when my phone buzzed. Mum's familiar number lit up the screen, and I already knew what was coming. I let it go to voicemail, like always. "Violet, honey, your brother's new pitch went amazing today. The investors were practically throwing money at him. You should have seen him up there, so confident, so brilliant. He really knows how to work a room. Anyway, call me back when you can. Oh, and did you get that secretary position you were interviewing for? I'm a senior litigation attorney, have been for 3 years. The message wasn't even cold when Donovan appeared in my doorway, manila folder in hand. His face had that particular expression, the one that meant either very good news or very bad news. "Nice work on the Henderson case," he said, closing my office door. "The client's ecstatic." "Thanks." I straightened in my chair. Donovan never gave compliments unless they were leading somewhere. He dropped the folder on my desk. "We just got retained on a major investor fraud suit, tech startup called Arcline Innovations. Ring any bells?" My stomach dropped. The coffee I'd been drinking turned to acid. "It should," he continued, watching me carefully. "The CEO is your brother." Memories flooded back. Last Thanksgiving, Mark holding court at the dinner table, explaining his revolutionary new platform. Mom and Dad hanging on every word, beaming with pride. Me, picking at my food, trying not to point out the glaring holes in his business model. "Dad mortgaged the house to invest in that company," I said quietly. "I know." Donovan leaned against my desk. "That's part of why I want you on this. You know the players better than anyone." I flipped open the folder. The numbers were staggering. Millions in missing investor funds, fabricated projections, forged documents. My brother's signature everywhere. "This isn't just bad business," I said. "This is fraud." "Exactly. And your parents signed off on false valuations. They're named as co-defendants." The room seemed to tilt slightly. I thought about all the family dinners, all the times Dad had laughed and said, "Ah, Violet, always so serious. She'll make a great secretary for Mark's company someday." "You don't have to take it," Donovan said. "We can assign someone else." My phone buzzed again. Another voicemail from Mom. "Honey, Mark mentioned he might need some basic legal help with his company. Nothing complicated, just paperwork. It would be such good experience for you." I looked up at Donovan. "When do we start?" He smiled. "I thought you might say that. First depositions are in 3 weeks. We'll need everything you've got." "They don't know I'm involved?" "Not yet. Want to recuse yourself?" I thought about Mark's smirk when he'd used my LinkedIn profile to claim he had top legal talent on his advisory board. About Mom and Dad draining their retirement to fund his dreams while telling me to be realistic about law school. "No," I said, "I want this case." Donovan nodded. "Good, because we're going after everyone involved. No settlements, no deals." As he left, my friend Taylor appeared in the doorway. She took one look at my face and closed the door behind her. "What's wrong?" I handed her the folder. She read for a moment, then whispered, "Holy shit." "Yeah." "Are you sure about this? It's your family." I picked up my phone, showing her Mum's messages. They stopped being family the day they decided Mark's lies were worth more than my truth. "Violet." "I warned them," I said, my voice steady. "I told them his numbers didn't add up. Dad said I was just jealous of Mark's success. Mum said I should be more supportive. Well, they're about to find out exactly how supportive I can be." Taylor sat down across from me. "This is going to get ugly." "It's already ugly. I'm just going to make it legal." My phone buzzed one more time. A text from Mark. "Hey sis, heard you won a big case. Maybe now you're good enough to help with some of my legal stuff. Nothing major, just need a signature or two." I placed my phone face down and pulled the case file closer. For years they'd treated me like I was nothing more than Mark's backup plan, his safety net, his secretary in waiting. They never bothered to look up long enough to see what I'd become. They were about to find out. I picked up my pen and began to write. "Preliminary motion for discovery. Case number 2023 CV 4891 in the matter of Arcline Innovations." Game on, big brother. Game on. "You should recuse yourself," Taylor said, pacing my office the next morning. "This isn't just another case, it's your family." I was knee-deep in Arcline's financial records, each page making my blood run colder. Family doesn't forge bank statements. At least tell Donovan about the conflict of interest. He already knows. I held up a particularly damning document. "Look at this." Mark claimed they had $12 million in pre-orders. The real number? 0. Taylor snatched the paper from my hands. "Stop avoiding the conversation. This is going to destroy you." "No," I said, pulling up another file on my laptop. This is going to destroy them. A knock at my door interrupted us. Donovan entered, followed by our lead investigator and a man I recognised from Mark's Instagram posts, Rowan, his biggest investor. "Violet," Donovan said, "Rowan would like to discuss the case strategy." Rowan's handshake was firm, his eyes hard. "I've heard good things about you, though I have to ask, any relation to Mark Dawson?" The room went quiet. I met his gaze steadily. "He's my brother." "Jesus Christ," Rowan turned to Donovan. "And you assigned her to this case?" "Actually," Donovan said, "I specifically requested her. No one knows the defendants better." "That's exactly the problem." Rowan's face reddened. "This is a clear conflict of interest." I stood up, sliding a document across my desk. "Mr. Taylor, this is an email from my brother to my parents, dated 3 months ago. He's instructing them how to backdate investment documents and inflate company valuations. I found it in 10 minutes of looking." Rowan picked up the paper, scanning it quickly. "I also have texts," I continued, "showing them discussing which documents to shred when the company started tanking. Would you like to see those too?" "How did you get these?" "Chelsea sent them to me this morning. Mark's ex-girlfriend? She was his CFO until he fired her for questioning his creative accounting." Rowan sat down heavily. "You're really willing to go after your own family?" I pulled up another email on my screen. 2 years ago, Mark used my credentials without permission to convince investors he had in-house counsel. When I confronted him, he laughed it off. My parents said I should be flattered." "Violet," Taylor warned softly. "Last year," I continued, "he borrowed $50,000 from our parents' retirement fund, told them it was for payroll. He spent it on a Tesla." "And you have proof of all this?" Rowan asked. "I have proof of everything. Mark's not just careless, he's criminal. And my parents aren't innocent bystanders. They helped him defraud you and every other investor." Donovan cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should discuss the actual legal strategy." "No," Rowan interrupted. "I want to hear more. Why are you really doing this?" I thought about all the family photos on Mum's wall, Mark's graduations, Mark's awards, Mark's company launches. The only photo of me was from high school. "Because the truth matters," I said. "Because they chose to believe comfortable lies instead of uncomfortable facts. Because every investor deserves justice, even if the perpetrators are my blood." Rowan studied me for a long moment. "Okay," he finally said. "She stays on the case." After they left, Taylor lingered. "That speech about truth and justice was very convincing." "It wasn't a speech." "Really? Because it sounded an awful lot like revenge?" My phone buzzed. Mom again. I ignored it. "You know what the difference is between justice and revenge?" I asked, pulling up another document. "Documentation." "Violet, look at this." I pointed to a signature line. "That's supposedly Dad's signature on a guarantee for $2 million in seed funding, except Dad was in the hospital that day having knee surgery. I have his medical records." "How long have you been gathering evidence against them?" "I haven't been." I met her eyes. "I've been paying attention. There's a difference." My phone buzzed again. This time it was Mark. "Hey, sis, weird question. You still have access to those corporate law databases? Need to check something about shareholder rights. No big deal." I showed Taylor the message. "Still think this is about revenge?" She sighed. "Just be careful. This won't end well." It already didn't end well. I opened another file. Now it's just going to end legally. After Taylor left, I sat alone in my office, staring at the growing mountain of evidence. Mum's voicemail light was still blinking. I pressed play. "Honey, your father and I got some strange legal papers today, probably just a mix-up. Could you take a look? You know how these things confuse us. Oh, and Mark's launching a new product line next week. You should come." I deleted the message and picked up my phone. Time to call Chelsea. If anyone knew where the rest of the bodies were buried, it would be Mark's ex-CFO, and I was going to find every single one. My phone rang at 7:43 a.m, Mum's ringtone. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. "Violet," her voice was shaking, "we need your help, right now." What's wrong? These people, they're suing us. They're suing Mark. Something about fraud and misrepresentation. Your father's beside himself. I gripped my coffee mug tighter. When were you served? Yesterday afternoon. Some man just showed up at the door with papers. Violet, they're saying we helped Mark deceive investors? That's ridiculous. We were just supporting our son's dreams. Like you never supported mine. I pushed the thought away. What exactly did you sign for Mark's company? Oh, just some routine things, valuations, projections. He said everyone's parents help with startups these days. Did you read the documents before signing them? Of course not. He's our son. We trust him. I closed my eyes. Put Dad on the phone. There was rustling, then Dad's gruff voice. Hey, kiddo, quite a mess we've got here. Tell me exactly what happened. Your brother needed some signatures for his investors, said it was just formality stuff. Now these vultures are claiming we knowingly participated in some kind of scheme. Did you guarantee any loans? Silence. Dad? Just the house, he said quietly. And maybe the retirement accounts. Mark said it was temporary. My stomach churned. It was worse than I'd thought. You need to get a lawyer, I said. That's why we're calling you. You're a lawyer. I can't represent you in this. Why not? You're family. Use that legal brain of yours to fix this. Fix this. Like I was the family janitor, expected to clean up Mark's messes while they praised his genius. I can't, I repeated. It would be a conflict of interest. What conflict? This is your brother we're talking about. Exactly. I took a deep breath. Get another lawyer, a good one. You're going to need it. I hung up before he could argue. 10 minutes later, I was in Donovan's office. They called you, didn't they? He asked. I nodded. They have no idea what they've done or what's coming. Are you sure you want to continue? It's not too late to step back. My phone buzzed with a text from Mark. Mum and Dad freaking out over some legal BS. Handle it for me. You're good at that boring stuff. I showed Donovan the message. I'm sure. Later that day, I met with Rowan in our conference room. He spread dozens of emails across the table, correspondence between Mark and my parents, discussing which numbers to adjust and which documents to backdate. Your brother promised me personally that these projections were conservative, Rowan said, his voice tight. Said his parents had vetted everything, trusted family members, he said, pillars of the community. I picked up one email. Mum's words jumped out. Of course we'll sign whatever you need, sweetheart. We believe in you completely. They weren't ignorant, I said. They were willing. You understand we're going after everything? The house, the retirement accounts, all of it? I thought about my law school graduation. How Mum and Dad had left early because Mark had an important investor meeting they couldn't miss. How they'd missed my first major court victory because they were attending Mark's product launch. Yes, I said. I understand completely. Rowan studied me. You know, most people would protect their family. I am protecting my family from themselves. That evening, Taylor found me still at my desk, reviewing deposition schedules. Your mum called me, she said. She's worried about you, says you're not returning her calls. I can't talk to them right now, not until... Until what? Until you've destroyed them completely? I pulled up a document on my screen. Look at this. Mark's pitch deck from last year. See that part about their expert legal team? That's my LinkedIn profile he screenshot, without asking. Violet? And this? I clicked to another file. That's my parents' signature on a document claiming they'd personally reviewed the company's financials, the same financials Mark was falsifying. They're still your parents. No. I stood up, gathering my things. They're witnesses in a fraud case, and they're going to learn that actions have consequences. My phone lit up with another text from Mark. Come on, sis, help a brother out. Remember when we were kids and I let you play with my computer? Time to return the favour. I turned off my phone and grabbed my briefcase. The deposition notices would be served tomorrow. Soon they'd all know exactly which side of the table I was sitting on. Let them call me then. Chelsea agreed to meet me at a coffee shop across town. Mark's ex-girlfriend and former CFO looked different from her LinkedIn photo. Thinner, harder, with dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. "I was wondering when someone would finally come asking questions," she said, stirring her latte. "Didn't expect it to be you." "Tell me everything." She pulled out her phone. "I kept receipts, all of them. Your brother threatened to sue me for breach of contract if I ever shared these, but—" She laughed bitterly. "I've got nothing left to lose." The documents she forwarded painted a devastating picture. Mark had siphoned investor money into personal accounts, spent hundreds of thousands on influencer partnerships that never materialized, and dumped millions into crypto right before the market crashed. "What about my parents?" I asked. "How involved were they?" "Oh, they were his favourite rubber stamp." Chelsea's voice dripped with contempt. "Every time investors wanted verification of his claims, he'd get your parents to sign off. They never questioned anything." "Did they know what they were signing?" "Your mum did the company's internal audits, or claimed to anyway. Mark wrote them, she signed them. Your dad guaranteed loans with his house, his retirement, everything." I took a sip of my coffee. It had gone cold. "Tell me about the Tesla." Chelsea's eyes narrowed. "Which one?" "There was more than one. 3, plus the vacation house in Aspen he said was for corporate retreats, the private jet membership for investor relations, the yacht rental for team building." She pulled up more documents. "It was never about the technology. Mark just wanted to play billionaire with other people's money." My phone buzzed. Mom again. I ignored it. "You know what the worst part was?" Chelsea continued. "He almost had me convinced I was crazy. Every time I questioned an expense, he'd say I just didn't understand startup culture, that I was too rigid, too conventional." "That sounds familiar." "Yeah, well, he got sloppy, started leaving paper trails. When I confronted him, he fired me, said I was undermining company morale." She looked at me directly. "Your parents were at that meeting. They watched him do it. Your mum even said maybe I needed to be more supportive." I thought about all the times I'd heard those same words. "There's something else you should know," Chelsea said, lowering her voice. "The acquisition deal, the one your parents mortgaged their house for. It was fake." My stomach dropped. "What?" "Mark forged the letters of intent, made up the whole thing. Your parents signed over their house based on documents he created in Microsoft Word." I stood up abruptly. "I need copies of everything." "Already sent them to your work email." Chelsea smiled grimly. "Make it hurt, Violet." Later that afternoon, I did something I hadn't done in months. I drove to my parents' house. The familiar suburban street felt different now, knowing what I knew. Mom answered the door with a relieved smile. "Violet, we've been so worried. Have you looked at those legal papers yet?" "Just checking in," I said, following her inside. Nothing had changed. Mark's achievements still plastered the walls, his startup coverage framed in the hallway. Dad was in his usual chair, watching CNBC. "Hey kiddo, finally here to help with this lawsuit nonsense?" "Actually, I'm just visiting." I sat down, noting the Tesla brochure on the coffee table. "How's Mark?" "Oh, he's handling everything beautifully," Mum beamed. "Such a natural leader. He says it's just a misunderstanding with some difficult investors. Nothing to worry about." "Did he tell you about the acquisition deal?" "Of course. We're so proud. Once that goes through, everything will be fine." I looked at the second mortgage papers sitting on Dad's desk, my stomach turning. They had no idea. "You know, Violet," Dad said, his tone condescending, "if you'd gone into business instead of law, you might understand how these things work. Sometimes you have to take risks to achieve greatness." "Is that what Mark told you?" "He's finally got you acting like family," Mum said warmly. "Supporting your brother like you should." My phone buzzed. A text from Chelsea with one final document, proof of Mark using the house money for his third Tesla. "I should go," I said, standing up. "Work to do." "That's our Violet," Dad chuckled, "always so serious." As I drove away, I got another text from Mark. "Parents say you visited. Thanks for being cool about everything, sis. Knew I could count on you." I pulled over and forwarded Chelsea's documents to Donovan. Then I typed out a response to my brother. You can count on me, all right. Just wait and see. The moment I submitted the full evidentiary briefing, I knew there was no going back. My name was on every document, every motion, every damning piece of evidence. By tomorrow morning, my family would know exactly what I'd done. Taylor found me in my office at midnight, staring at my phone. "Your mum's called 6 times, she said, sitting down across from me. 7, she left a voicemail asking if I could recommend a good defence attorney. I laughed hollowly. She still doesn't know. The filing goes public in 8 hours. I know. Are you ready for this? Before I could answer, Donovan appeared in my doorway. Their lawyer just called. They want to meet. My heart stopped. They know? No. Mark's attorney saw your name on the filing docket. He's requesting a private meeting before it goes public. Donovan's expression was grim. Tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. That's not much notice. They're desperate. The question is, are you ready to face your brother? I thought about Chelsea's documents, the forged acquisition papers, the Tesla receipts. Yes. Violet, Taylor touched my arm, you don't have to be the one who does this. Actually, I do. I stood up, gathering my files. I've spent my whole life watching them choose him. Tomorrow they'll have to choose the truth. The next morning I arrived at the office early. Mark's attorney was already in the conference room. James, a shark in an expensive suit who specialised in making corporate fraud disappear. Violet? His face showed genuine surprise. You're the prosecutor? Lead counsel for the plaintiffs, I corrected, setting down my briefcase. Does Mark know? He will soon. James leaned forward. Look, we can work something out. Your brother made some mistakes, but fraud isn't a mistake. Neither is forging documents or embezzling investor funds. He's family. No, I said, opening my laptop. He's a defendant. The door opened. Mark walked in, wearing his signature startup founder outfit. Designer jeans, black turtleneck, confident smile. The smile faltered when he saw me. Sis, what are you doing here? I slid a document across the table. Representing the plaintiffs in their fraud case against you, Mum and Dad. His face went through several emotions. Confusion, disbelief, anger. You're joking. Does this look like a joke? I pulled up the evidence on the conference room screen. Bank transfers to personal accounts, forged acquisition documents, 3 Tesla purchases using investor funds. Those were business expenses. Was the yacht a business expense too? The Aspen House? The private jet membership? Mark's smile returned, but it was colder now. Come on, Vi. We both know what this is really about. Dad calling you a secretary, Mum missing your graduation. You're still that jealous little sister trying to prove something. No, I said quietly. I'm a lawyer who has you dead to rights on multiple counts of securities fraud, and in about... I checked my watch. 3 hours, everyone will know. You wouldn't dare. Chelsea gave us everything, Mark. Every email, every forged document, every fake audit Mum signed. His face paled. I'll deny it all. Under oath? That's bold, considering the paper trail. James interrupted. Perhaps we should discuss settlement terms. No settlements, I said. No deals. The truth comes out today. Mark stood up, his chair scraping loudly. If you do this, you'll destroy Mum and Dad too. Is that what you want? They destroyed themselves when they chose to help you defraud investors. They were helping their son, and now their daughter is helping justice. Mark leaned across the table, his voice low. I'll tell them everything. How you've been building this case for months, how their precious daughter stabbed them in the back. Go ahead, the truth was going to come out anyway. He straightened, adjusting his turtleneck. You know what? Do your worst, but remember, when this is over, you won't have a family left. I haven't had a real family in years. I've just had cheerleaders for your lies. After they left, Taylor found me in my office. How did it go? About as well as expected. I showed her my phone, 20 missed calls from Mum, 10 from Dad. They know. What are you going to do? I pulled up the final deposition schedule. Mum and Dad were listed for next week. I'm going to do my job, I said, and they're going to learn that actions have consequences. My phone buzzed one last time, a text from Mark. Mum's crying. Dad's talking about heart attacks. Hope you're happy with yourself. I typed back 3 words. Truth hurts, brother. Then I turned off my phone and prepared for war. The cafe was empty except for Mark and me. He'd demanded this meeting through back channels, claiming he wanted to work things out. I knew better. You look terrible, I said, noting his wrinkled shirt and unshaven face. Yeah, well, having your sister try to destroy your life will do that. He stirred his coffee absently. Mum hasn't stopped crying for 3 days. Did you tell her about the fake acquisition papers yet? Or should I save that for the deposition? Mark's facade cracked slightly. Come on, you're not really doing this. The evidence is already filed. There's no turning back. Evidence? He laughed bitterly. You mean Chelsea's revenge package? She's just bitter because I fired her. You fired her for doing her job, for trying to stop you from committing fraud. It wasn't fraud. It was aggressive business strategy. Every startup does it. I pulled out my phone, pulled up a document. Is this your signature authorizing a wire transfer of investor funds to buy your 3rd Tesla? That was a business expense. And this? Another document. Falsified revenue projections that Mum certified as accurate. They were supporting their son. They were enabling a criminal. Mark's charm switched on like a light. Look, sis, I know we've had our differences, but we can fix this. I've got some new investors lined up once this round closes. More people to defraud? Jesus, Violet! He slammed his hand on the table. What do you want from me? An apology? Fine. I'm sorry I used your LinkedIn profile. I'm sorry Dad called you a secretary. Is that what this is about? I leaned forward. You really don't get it, do you? This isn't about hurt feelings. It's about laws you broke, people you stole from, lives you ruined. Nobody got hurt. Chelsea lost everything. Rowan's company nearly went bankrupt. Mum and Dad mortgaged their future on your lies. I was trying to build something great. You were trying to play billionaire with other people's money. His smile turned cruel. At least I tried. What have you built? A career pushing papers? A life so empty you have to destroy your family to feel important? There it is, I said quietly. The real Mark, the one who thinks rules don't apply to him. The one who believes his dreams justify any crime. It's called ambition, something you wouldn't understand. I pulled out one final document. This is your plea deal. Confess, return the money, testify against your co-conspirators, and we push for civil penalties instead of criminal charges. Mark's face darkened. You want me to testify against our parents? I want the truth. The truth? He stood up, looming over me. The truth is you've always been jealous, always been bitter that Mum and Dad believed in me more than you. Well, guess what? They were right. I took risks while you played it safe. I dreamed big while you counted paperclips. Sit down. You know what Dad told me last week? He said he always knew you'd try to hurt me somehow, that your success made you cold, made you forget what family means. Something snapped inside me. Family? You want to talk about family? Where were you when I graduated law school? Oh, right, at an investor meeting that Mum and Dad just had to attend. Where were you when I made partner? When I won my first major case? Too busy spending other people's money to notice. Violet, you used my credentials without permission. You dragged our parents into your fraud. You lied and stole, and when someone tried to stop you, you destroyed them. That's not family. That's not business. That's just criminal. Mark's mask slipped completely. If I go down, I'm taking them with me. Mum and Dad signed everything. They knew exactly what they were doing. Finally, I said, standing up. The truth. He realized his mistake too late. That's not... I didn't mean... Your deposition is Monday. Bring a better story than that. As I turned to leave, he called after me. They'll never forgive you for this. I stopped at the door. They never saw me anyway. At least now they'll have to look. Outside, Taylor was waiting in her car. How did it go? I handed her my phone with the recording of Mark's confession. Get this to Donovan. We'll need it for Monday. Violet, are you okay? I watched through the window as Mark put his head in his hands, finally looking like what he was. A fraud whose luck had run out. No, I said, but I will be, when this is over. And your parents? My phone buzzed with a text from Mum. How could you do this to your brother? To us? We're your family. I turned off the phone. Monday, I said. They'll get their answers Monday. The deposition room felt smaller than usual. My parents sat across the table, their lawyer between them, looking anywhere but at me. Mum's hands trembled as she arranged and rearranged her water glass. Dad's jaw was set in that familiar way, the look he got when he was about to lecture me about supporting my brother. Let the record show, I began, my voice steady, that this is the deposition of Laura and Richard in the matter of Taylor versus Arcline Innovations. Violet, Mum whispered, but their lawyer silenced her with a touch. I placed my business card on the table. I'm leading this deposition pursuant to Rule 30b-6. Please state your names for the record. Dad's face had gone grey. What is this? Answer the question, please. Their lawyer leaned forward. My clients would like a moment. Your clients have had moments, years of them. Names, please. Mum started crying softly. Dad put his arm around her, glaring at me. Laura and Richard, your parents, in case you've forgotten. And what was your role at Arcline Innovations? We were investors, Dad snapped, supporting our son's business. I pulled out the first document. This is a company audit dated March 15th. Mrs. Laura, is this your signature? Mum nodded. Verbal response, please. Yes, she whispered. And did you actually perform this audit? Mark said it was just a formality. I placed another document on the table. This shows Arcline had $0 in revenue when you certified it had $12 million. Did you know that? Mark explained, yes or no. Mum broke down completely. He's our son. We were trying to help him. By committing fraud, their lawyer interrupted. Objection. Argumentative. Withdrawn. I pulled out the Tesla receipts. Did you know investor funds were being used for personal purchases? Now wait just a minute, Dad's voice rose. We were just trying to help him succeed, something you've clearly never understood. Did you read the documents before signing them? Of course not. We trusted him. Even after I warned you the numbers didn't add up? The room went silent. Dad's face reddened. You were always jealous of his success. What success? I slapped down the fake acquisition papers. This letter of intent you mortgaged your house on, it's forged. Mark created it in Microsoft Word. There was never any acquisition deal. Mum's sob caught in her throat. That's not true. It is true, and you would have known that if you'd spent 5 minutes actually looking at what you were signing instead of blindly enabling his fraud. We were just trying to help. Dad's voice had lost its edge. Help! I stood up, my control finally cracking. I tried to help too. I tried to warn you. I tried to show you the problems. But you didn't want to hear it from me, did you? Because I was just the careful one, the boring one, the one who'd make a great secretary someday. Violet, please. Mum reached across the table. I pulled back. Do you know what Mark told me last week? He said you knew exactly what you were doing, that you signed everything willingly. He wouldn't say that, Dad protested. I played the recording. Mark's voice filled the room. Mum and Dad signed everything. They knew exactly what they were doing. Mum put her head in her hands. Dad's face crumpled. We were just trying to support him. No, I said quietly. You were choosing him, like you always have, and now you get to face the consequences, like I always have. Their lawyer called for a break, but I wasn't finished. One last question. I pulled out the final document. This is your LinkedIn post from last month, celebrating Mark's visionary leadership, posted the same day you received the lawsuit notice. Why? Mum looked up, tears streaming. We thought, if we just believed in him hard enough. The truth doesn't care what you believe. I gathered my papers. We'll resume after lunch. I suggest you use that time to decide whether you want to keep defending lies or start telling the truth. As I turned to leave, Dad called out, "We were just being parents." I stopped at the door. "No, you were being his parents. You were never mine." Outside, Taylor was waiting. "That was necessary," I finished. "Are you okay?" Through the glass, I could see Mum crying into Dad's shoulder, their lawyer speaking urgently to them. Years of blind support crumbling under the weight of reality. "No," I said, "but the truth isn't supposed to feel good. It's just supposed to be true." My phone buzzed. Mark again. "What did you do to them?" I typed back, "I showed them who you really are, who they really are. The rest is up to them." Then I straightened my jacket and headed back in. There were still questions to answer, truths to uncover, and I was just getting started. The settlement papers landed on my desk with a soft thud. Mark had finally cracked, agreeing to full restitution and cooperation. His testimony had sealed everything else: the fraud, the forgeries, our parents' willing participation. "Quite a victory," Donovan said, leaning against my doorframe. "Rowan's ecstatic." "What about my parents?" "They're selling the house. Between that and liquidating their retirement accounts, they should be able to cover their portion of the damages." I nodded, trying to ignore the hollow feeling in my chest. "Your brother's facing civil penalties," he continued. "No jail time, thanks to his cooperation, but he'll never run another company." My phone buzzed. A text from Chelsea. "Just saw the news, thank you." Taylor appeared behind Donovan, holding a bottle of champagne. "We're celebrating. Come on." "In a minute." After they left, I sat in the quiet of my office, staring at the family photo I'd kept in my drawer. Mum, Dad, Mark and me at his college graduation. They were all beaming at him while I stood slightly apart, already invisible. A knock at my door startled me. Mum stood there, looking smaller than I remembered. "Can I come in?" I gestured to the chair across from me. She sat, clutching her purse like a shield. "The house sells next week," she said quietly. "We're moving into an apartment." "I know." "Your father—" She paused, swallowing hard. "He's not handling it well. Keeps saying he failed as a parent." "Did he?" She flinched. "We thought we were doing the right thing, supporting our son's dreams." "And my dreams?" "You never needed our support. You were always so capable." I laughed bitterly. "I needed you, Mum. I just wasn't willing to lie to get your attention." "Mark says we betrayed him, that we should have fought harder." "Mark's still lying. To you, to himself, to everyone." She pulled something from her purse, my law school graduation photo. "I found this while packing. We weren't there, were we?" "No, you were at Mark's product launch." Tears filled her eyes. "I'm sorry, Violet, not for supporting Mark, but for never seeing you, for never understanding that success doesn't have to be loud to be real." "It's a little late for that." "I know." She stood up. "But I thought you should hear it anyway." As she reached the door, she turned back. "Your father wanted me to ask, will we ever be family again?" "We never really were," I said softly. "But maybe we can build something new, something honest this time." After she left, I walked to the conference room where Taylor and Donovan were pouring champagne. "There she is." Taylor handed me a glass. "The woman who brought down her own brother." "No," I corrected, "the lawyer who exposed the truth." Donovan raised his glass. "To justice." "To consequences," I added. My phone buzzed one last time. Mark. "I hope you're happy. You've ruined everything." I typed back, "No, you ruined everything. I just proved it." Then I turned back to my colleagues, my real family, the people who saw me clearly from the start. "You know what the hardest part was?" I said, sipping my champagne. "Not the case, not the evidence. It was realizing that sometimes justice looks exactly like revenge, but feels completely different." "How so?" Taylor asked. "Revenge wants to hurt. Justice wants to heal, even when the actions look the same." Donovan nodded. "And which was this?" I thought about Mum's visit, about Dad's broken pride, about Mark's final lies crumbling under oath. Both, I admitted, but mostly justice. Because the truth matters more than family loyalty. Because consequences aren't punishment, they're education. And what did they learn? I looked out the window at the city skyline, thinking about all the invisible daughters watching their brothers shine, all the quiet competence overshadowed by loud mediocrity. They learned that actions matter more than intentions, that truth doesn't care about family ties, and that sometimes the person they overlooked becomes the person they can't ignore. Taylor refilled my glass. To the overlooked. No, I said, smiling for the first time in weeks. To the truth, it wins in the end. My phone stayed silent after that. There would be more words later, more attempts at understanding, more bridges to build or burn. But for now there was just this, the quiet satisfaction of justice served, of truth unveiled, of consequences finally finding their mark. They told me I'd work for my brother someday. They were right. I just never told them I'd be holding the gavel.
The thing about family dinners is that they're never really about the food. They're elaborate traps disguised as pot roast and small talk, especially in my family. I should have known better than to accept my mother's invitation, but here I was, watching the familiar drama unfold over Helen's famous lasagna. Did you hear about Clyde? My mother's voice carried that practiced tone of concern she'd perfected over the years. They're being evicted next month. I kept my eyes on my plate, pushing a piece of garlic bread around. That's terrible, I said, knowing full well what was coming next. It is terrible, my father Dexter chimed in, right on cue, especially when there are perfectly good solutions available. The silence that followed was heavy with expectation. I could feel their eyes on me, waiting. I'm Livia, by the way, the family ATM, eternal disappointment, and apparently the solution to all of my brother's problems. That second condo of yours is just sitting there, my mother continued, reaching for her wine glass. He has children, Livia. Your niece and nephew need a home. I set down my fork. The condo isn't sitting empty, Mom. Ariel's been renting it for the past year. She's a great tenant, and that property is part of my retirement plan. Plans can change, my father said sharply. Family comes first. I took a slow sip of water, buying time. Clyde makes twice what Ariel does. If he hadn't quit his last 3 jobs, don't you dare judge your brother. My mother's voice cracked like a whip. He's trying his best. Unlike some people, he didn't have everything handed to him on a silver platter. I almost laughed at that. Everything handed to me? I'd worked 2 jobs through college, built my real estate portfolio from scratch, while Clyde, I can help him look for apartments in his price range, I offered, or maybe he could move in with you guys temporarily. Absolutely not, my father cut in. Your mother and I need our space. Besides, that's not the point. You have an extra property. You're single, no children. What do you need 2 homes for? Investment, security, future. I counted off on my fingers. The same reasons anyone... Listen to yourself. My mother's eyes welled up with tears. Right on schedule. So cold, so selfish. What happened to you, Livia? Where did we go wrong? I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. I should go. Thank you for dinner. Sit down, my father commanded. We're not finished discussing this. Yes, we are. I grabbed my purse. The condo isn't available. I'm sorry about Clyde's situation, but I can't or won't. My mother's voice had turned ugly. Your brother would give you the shirt off his back. Funny, since he still owes me $3,000 from last Christmas. I made it to the hallway before my mother's voice stopped me. If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back. An empty threat. She'd used it at least 12 times before. I turned to face them one last time. I love you both, but my answer is no. I was halfway to my car when I realized I'd forgotten my phone on their kitchen counter. Cursing under my breath, I turned back. The side door was always unlocked, and I could slip in quietly to grab it. But as I approached, I heard voices through the window. "We can't believe she's doing this to us." My mother's voice, thick with tears. "Don't worry." That was Clyde. When had he arrived? "I talked to that guy I know. He says we can handle this ourselves. She thinks she's so smart with her precious investment property." "Are you sure?" My father now. "If she finds out, she won't. Trust me. By next week, this will all be sorted out. One way or another." I backed away from the window, my heart pounding. Whatever they were planning, it couldn't be good. I'd seen that determined tone in Clyde's voice before, right before he borrowed my car in college and totaled it, claiming it was stolen. My phone could wait. I needed to make some calls of my own. As I drove home, my hands were steady on the wheel even as my mind raced. They thought I was the selfish one? Fine. They wanted to play games? Okay. But this time, I wasn't going to roll over and take it. This time, I was going to be ready for whatever they threw at me. Because the thing about family dinners is that they're never really about the food. Sometimes they're declarations of war. 3 days after the dinner from hell, my phone buzzed during a client meeting. Seeing Ariel's name flash across the screen, I excused myself to take the call. "Livia, I'm so sorry to bother you, but there's someone here trying to get into the condo." Her voice trembled. "They have a locksmith with them. They're saying it's family property and—" "Call the police. Now. I'm on my way." I broke every speed limit getting there. By the time I pulled up, a patrol car was already parked outside. And there they were, my father and Clyde, standing with a bewildered-looking locksmith while 2 officers took statements. "There she is." Clyde pointed at me. "Tell them, Livia. Tell them this is a family misunderstanding." I walked straight to the officers. "I'm the property owner. These men were attempting to break in and change the locks while my tenant is still legally occupying the unit." "That's a lie," my father shouted. "This property belongs to the family. We have every right." "Show them the paperwork then," I challenged, pulling out my phone. "Meanwhile, I have the deed right here, along with the current lease agreement." One of the officers, a woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, reviewed my documents. "Ma'am, would you like to press charges?" I looked at my father's reddening face, at Clyde's poorly concealed panic. "Not today, but I want this incident documented." After the officers left, taking the locksmith's information for their report, Clyde stepped toward me. "You've really done it now, sis. Mom's going to—" "Going to what?" I cut him off. "Going to cry? Manipulate? Threaten? Tell me, Clyde, how's that working out for you so far?" "This isn't over," my father growled. "Actually, it is." I turned to Ariel, who stood nervously in the doorway. "You okay?" She nodded. "I got everything on video just in case." "Our house." "Smart girl." I smiled at her before facing my family again. "Let me make something crystal clear. This property isn't just in my name anymore. It's in an irrevocable trust. Do you know what that means?" The blank looks on their faces said it all. It means you can't touch it. Ever. Not through guilt, not through lawyers, not through locksmiths. So unless you want to add criminal charges to your growing list of problems, stay away from my property and my tenant. "You planned this," my father accused, his voice low and dangerous. "You knew we'd need help, and you made sure we couldn't get to it. Your own family." "Actually, Natalia suggested the trust 6 months ago." I thought back to that conversation with my financial advisor and best friend. "Your brother's been asking about your properties," she'd said over coffee, "and your mom's been calling my office, trying to get information about your accounts. You need to protect yourself." I'd laughed it off then. "They're annoying, but they wouldn't actually try anything." "Trust me," she'd insisted. "I've seen this before. Family can be ruthless when money's involved. Let's set up the trust now, before you need it." Standing here now, watching my father and brother seethe with thwarted entitlement, I silently thanked Natalia for her foresight. You've changed, Clyde spat. You used to care about family. I still do. That's why I'm not pressing charges, but this is your only warning. Come near my property again, and I'll bury you in legal fees so deep, you'll need more than Mom's tears to dig you out. They left, but not before my father turned back. Your mother will hear about this. You've broken her heart. Better her heart than my bank account, I called after him. Once they were gone, Ariel hugged me. Thank you. I was so scared when they showed up. You did exactly the right thing by calling me. I checked the security cameras I'd installed after the dinner incident. Send me that video you took, okay? Just in case. Back in my car, my phone pinged with a text from an unknown number. You actually think you're safe? Check Clyde's financials. You're not the only one he's trying to screw over. I stared at the message, my hands shaking slightly. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to believe this was the end of their schemes. But I knew better. This was just the beginning. I pulled up Natalia's number. Hey, remember when you said I might need a good private investigator someday? I think that day just arrived. Because the thing about family, sometimes protecting yourself from them is a full-time job. Jesse Black's office looked exactly like you'd expect a private investigator's workspace to look. Organized chaos of files, multiple monitors, and coffee cups everywhere. She scrolled through documents while I tried to process what she'd just told me. Run that by me again, I said, leaning forward. You're saying Clyde already had money? Had being the operative word. Jessie turned one of her monitors toward me. Your grandfather left him a substantial inheritance 5 years ago, nearly $500,000. My coffee went cold in my hands. That's impossible. They've been crying poverty for years. Clyde's always borrowing money, saying they can barely afford groceries. Oh, he burned through it fast enough. Jessie pulled up bank statements, casino withdrawals, failed business ventures, luxury car leases. But here's where it gets interesting. She pointed to a series of transfers. These went to shell companies registered under your father's name. The room seemed to tilt. My father's involved? Deeply. Look at these dates. More documents appeared on screen. Every time Clyde made a major withdrawal, a corresponding amount would show up in one of your father's business accounts, usually disguised as consulting fees. But why would they hide this from me? They're always asking for... The realization hit like a slap. They didn't want me to know they had money when they were begging for mine. Bingo! Jessie sat back. And there's more. Your father's been moving retirement funds through these same shell companies. From what I can tell, he's naming Clyde as a silent partner to avoid some pretty serious tax implications. My phone buzzed. A text from Natalia. Your mother and father just showed up at my office. They're making a scene. I have to go, I told Jessie, standing up. Send me everything you have, and keep digging. I made it to Natalia's office in record time. The receptionist's wide eyes told me everything I needed to know. They're still in there, she whispered. Should I call security? Through the glass walls, I could see my parents facing off with Natalia, who maintained her professional calm even as my mother gesticulated wildly. I pushed open the door in time to hear, How dare you help her betray her family like this? This is a place of business, Natalia said firmly. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Not until you undo whatever you did with that trust, my father demanded. You turned our daughter against us. No, I announced from the doorway. You did that all by yourselves. They spun around. My mother's face crumpled into her practiced victim expression. How could you humiliate us like this, making us look like criminals in front of the police? Funny you should mention criminals. I pulled out my phone, pulling up the documents Jessie had just sent. Want to talk about Grandpa's inheritance? The one Clyde burned through while still begging me for money? The color drained from my father's face. Where did you... Or maybe we should discuss your shell companies. The creative accounting? I wonder what the IRS would think about... You wouldn't dare! my father growled, taking a step toward me. Natalia's hand moved to her desk phone. Sir, step back or I'm calling security. We're leaving, my mother announced, grabbing my father's arm. But this isn't over, Livia. You think you're so clever with your investigations and your trust, but you have no idea what you're doing to this family. I know exactly what I'm doing, I replied. I'm finally seeing it clearly. After they stormed out, Natalia hugged me. I'm so sorry. I never thought they'd show up here. I'm the one who's sorry, but thank you for everything. You were right about the trust. Don't thank me yet. She looked worried. They're desperate now. Desperate people do stupid things. My phone chimed with a voicemail notification. Lindsay's name appeared on the screen. I played it on speaker. Livia, please. My sister-in-law's voice broke with sobs. Clyde's talking about hurting himself. He says he can't take the shame, the pressure. If anything happens to him, it'll be your fault. His blood will be on your hands. Please, just give him the property. Before it's too late. I deleted the message, my hands steady despite the rage building inside me. They're trying to manipulate you, Natalia said softly. I know. I gathered my things, and they just made a huge mistake. What are you going to do? I thought about the inheritance, the shell companies, the years of lies and manipulation. They want to play dirty? Fine. Let's see how they handle it when I stop playing nice. Because the thing about manipulation, it only works until your target decides they're done being manipulated. Lindsay's voicemail haunted me for exactly 6 minutes, the time it took to drive to Flynn's law office. My attorney was already waiting, documents spread across his desk like battle plans. Your brother's suicide threat, Flynn said, reviewing the voicemail I'd forwarded. Classic emotional extortion. We're documenting everything. Should I be worried? I asked, thinking of Clyde's theatrical tendencies. About his safety? No. About what this reveals about their tactics? Absolutely. Flynn pulled up a file on his computer. They're escalating. First, physical intimidation with the locksmith. Now, psychological warfare. We need to move fast. Natalia arrived with a stack of financial records. You're going to want to see these, she said, spreading them across Flynn's desk. Dexter's been busy. Look at these transfers. I leaned in, scanning the documents. These dates, they line up with every time I refuse the money. Exactly. Natalia pointed to specific transactions. Every time you said no, they moved funds between accounts. They were never desperate. They were hiding assets. My phone buzzed. Ariel again. Livia, Clyde and Lindsay are outside the building. They're telling everyone I'm squatting in their property, that you stole it from them. Stay inside, I ordered. I'm calling the police. Flynn held up a hand. Wait. Let's use this. Record everything they say. We need to establish a pattern of harassment. An hour later, I had what I needed. Video footage of Clyde screaming at my tenant, Lindsay dramatically sobbing about their homeless children, and multiple witnesses to their behavior. Perfect, Flynn said, reviewing the footage. Now, about those financial records. My phone rang again. Unknown number. Miss Summers, a stern voice asked. This is Capital One Fraud Department. We're calling about some unusual activity on your account. My blood ran cold as the representative detailed thousands in charges, all under my name, all authorized with my social security number. I never opened that account, I said, putting the call on speaker. The application was submitted last week, the rep explained. With all your correct information, Flynn was already typing. Identity theft. Add it to the list. After the call, I sat in stunned silence. Natalia squeezed my shoulder. You okay? They used my social, I said quietly. My own family. This is good, Flynn interjected. Well, not good, but useful. Identity theft is federal. They've crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. What's our next move? I asked. We go nuclear, Flynn pulled out a fresh legal pad. First, we file fraud charges. Then, we prepare a civil suit detailing everything, the harassment, the financial crimes, all of it. But most importantly, he smiled grimly, we make it public. Public? My stomach lurched. They're counting on your silence, Natalia added. On your shame. Break that and their power crumbles. My phone chimed with a text from Lindsay. Hope you're happy. Clyde's in the hospital. This is all your fault. I showed it to Flynn, who immediately started typing on his phone. Checking local hospitals. Nothing. No admissions under his name in the last 24 hours. Another lie. That's it. I stood up, anger finally overwhelming caution. I'm done playing defense. What are you thinking? Natalia asked. They want to destroy my reputation? Fine. Let's see how they handle having their own dirty laundry aired out. I turned to Flynn. How quickly can we file those charges? Give me an hour. Good. Natalia, get me everything you have on Dexter's shell companies. Everything. Already compiled. I pulled out my own phone, opening my email. I'm sending everything to Jessie. Let's see what else she can dig up about their finances. Livia, Flynn cautioned, once we start this, there's no going back. They're family. No, I cut him off. Family doesn't commit fraud in your name. Family doesn't threaten and manipulate. Family doesn't... My phone rang again. This time, it was the police. Ma'am, we're responding to a report of suspicious activity on your credit. Multiple accounts opened in your name, totaling over $50,000 in charges. I put the phone on speaker, letting Flynn and Natalia hear every detail. With each new revelation, my resolve strengthened. They hadn't just crossed a line, they'd obliterated it. File everything, I told Flynn after the call ended. Every charge, every threat, every lie. No more protecting them. Because the thing about family secrets, sometimes the only way to break their power is to drag them into the light. As I left Flynn's office, another text came through, this time from an unknown number. You think you're untouchable with your fancy lawyer? Wait until you see what's coming next. I smiled, screenshot the message and forwarded it to Flynn. Let them come. This time, I was ready. I found Clyde waiting in my office parking lot the next morning. He looked terrible, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, wearing the same martyred expression our mother had perfected. We need to talk, he said, pushing off his car. About the credit card fraud? I kept walking. Or about faking a suicide threat? He followed me to the building entrance. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Mom and Dad, they said, stop. I turned to face him. Just stop. I've seen the financial records, Clyde. I know about Grandpa's inheritance. His face went slack. How did you... $500,000, I said, watching him flinch. You had $500,000 while begging me for rent money, while letting Mom guilt me about your struggling family. You don't understand, he stammered. Dad said we needed to invest it in his business ventures. He promised it would triple. And the credit cards in my name? Was that Dad's idea too? He looked away. We were desperate. Desperate? I laughed bitterly. You were desperate after blowing through an inheritance that could have bought you a house? After helping Dad commit tax fraud? Keep your voice down, he grabbed my arm. I jerked away. Don't touch me. Ever. What do you want? His voice cracked. Money? Fine, I'll pay you back. Just drop this whole investigation thing. You're going to ruin everyone's lives. You did that yourself. I pulled out my phone, showing him the fraud report. I filed this morning. The police are involved now. All color drained from his face. You can't... Lindsay's pregnant again. If I go to jail... You should have thought about that before stealing my identity. I started to walk away, then turned back. Oh, and Lindsay's not pregnant. I called her doctor's office pretending to confirm an appointment. Nice try, though. It was Mom's idea, he blurted out. The credit cards, the pregnancy story, all of it. She said you'd never find out. We were desperate. You keep using that word, I cut him off. I don't think it means what you think it means. Please, he begged. I'll tell you everything. About Dad's schemes, Mom's plans, all of it. Just drop the charges. I studied him. My big brother, the golden child, now reduced to bargaining in a parking lot. You know what's funny? For years, I thought I was the family failure, the cold, selfish one who didn't care enough. But look at us now. My phone buzzed. Jessie's number. Your father's being audited, she said without preamble. IRS is looking into those shell companies. They're going to find everything. I watched Clyde's face as I replied, Good. Send me the details. Livia, he pleaded, think about what this will do to Mom and Dad. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about every Christmas they made me feel guilty for my success. Every time they called me selfish for not sharing with you. Every manipulation, every lie. A memory hit me. Being 16, winning a scholarship. Mom barely looked up from fawning over Clyde's C+ in math. That's nice, dear, she'd said, but your brother really applied himself. My phone chimed again. A text from Natalia. Your mother just showed up at my office again. With CPS. What? I said aloud. She's claiming you're endangering Clyde's children by forcing them into homelessness. They want to investigate you for child endangerment. I showed Clyde the message. Child endangerment? Really? He had the decency to look ashamed. I didn't know she was going to save it. I walked toward the building entrance. Tell Mom her little CPS stunt just cost her any chance of mercy. I'm done playing nice. What are you going to do? I swiped my key card, letting the door close between us. Watch the news. I'm sure you'll find out. Inside, I called Flynn. How quickly can we go public with everything? Give me an hour to prepare the press release. Do it. I sat at my desk, hands steady as I typed an email to Jessie. And Flynn, make sure everyone knows exactly who the real victims are in this story. Because the thing about family drama, once it goes public, there's no controlling the narrative. And I was done letting them control mine. My phone lit up with another text, from my mother this time. CPS is just the beginning. Back off now, or you'll regret it. I screenshot the threat and forwarded it to Flynn. The war was fully on now, and I intended to win it. The CPS workers looked as uncomfortable as I felt, sitting in my living room while I presented lease agreements, tenant records, and security footage proving that Clyde had never lived in my property. As you can see, I explained, pulling up Ariel's rental history, this unit has been continuously occupied by other tenants. My brother has his own residence across town. The senior investigator, a tired-looking woman named Sandra, reviewed the documents. This appears to be a misunderstanding, or... She glanced meaningfully at my mother, who sat rigid on my couch. A deliberate false report. This is ridiculous, my mother snapped. She's twisting everything. Those poor children. Mrs. Summers, Sandra interrupted, filing false reports is a serious offense. We're here to protect children, not to be used as a weapon in family disputes. Weapon? My mother's voice rose. You want to talk about weapons? Look at her. She jabbed a finger at me, sitting there with her precious documents, her perfect life, while her family suffers. You always were the problem. Ugly little girl. You'll die alone. You know that? No one could ever love someone so cold. Ma'am, Sandra stood up. This interview is over. She nodded to her colleague, who was already recording my mother's outburst on his tablet. We'll be noting this behavior in our report. After the CPS workers left, my mother remained, trembling with rage. You recorded that. You recorded me. Actually, my security system did. I gestured to the discreet cameras in my living room corners. The same system that caught Dad and Clyde trying to break into my property. The same one recording you right now. You think you're so clever. She stepped closer, her face twisted. You have no idea what's coming. We raised you, gave you everything. You gave me trauma, I corrected. Manipulation, guilt, a lifetime of feeling never good enough because I wouldn't play by your rules. Rules? She laughed sharply. You want to talk about rules? Check your phone. As if on cue, my phone buzzed. A Reddit notification. My stomach dropped as I opened it. There, trending on Rami the Asshole, was a post from Clyde, ATA, for asking my heartless sister to help save my children from homelessness. The post was everything you'd expect. A masterpiece of manipulation, painting me as a monster who'd rather see children on the street than share my empty property. It already had thousands of upvotes, hundreds of comments calling me every name in the book. Social media is a funny thing, my mother smirked. People love a good villain story. I looked up from my phone, suddenly calm. You know what's funnier? Evidence. I opened my laptop, turning it to show her the folder I'd been building. Financial records, audio recordings, security footage, text messages, emails, everything documenting their months of harassment and fraud. I was going to handle this privately, I said, watching her face pale. But you just made it public. So let's give the internet what it really wants. The truth. You wouldn't dare. Try me. I started typing. Should I start with the inheritance Clyde blew through? Dad's tax fraud? The credit card theft? Or maybe your false CPS report? I'll deny everything. With what evidence? I gestured to my cameras. Every threat you've made is recorded, every lie documented, and every scheme exposed. She grabbed her purse, hands shaking. This isn't over. Actually, it is. I stood up. You wanted a public fight? Congratulations. You got one. After she left, I called Flynn. How quickly can we respond to Clyde's Reddit post? Already drafting it, he said, with links to all the evidence. Once this goes live, their whole house of cards collapses, I finished. Do it. I walked to my window, watching my mother's car speed away. My phone buzzed again. Natalia this time. You okay? She asked. No, I admitted. But I will be. The truth always comes out, she said softly. Sometimes it just needs a push. I looked at my laptop, at the folder containing years of evidence, at Clyde's viral Reddit post attempting to destroy me. One click would change everything. One post would expose every lie, every manipulation, every crime. My finger hovered over the mouse. Part of me still hesitated. They were family, after all. Then my mother's words echoed. Ugly little girl. You'll die alone. I clicked post because the thing about family? Sometimes the only way to heal is to let the whole world see exactly who they really are. The truth was out now, and there was no taking it back. My response post went viral within hours. The internet, it turns out, loves a good revenge story, especially one with receipts. Every document, every recording, every piece of evidence laid bare for the world to see. Your post just hit the front page, Natalia said, refreshing her screen. The comments. People are sharing similar stories. You've started something. My phone hadn't stopped ringing. Local news, online journalists, podcast hosts, everyone wanted the full story. Clyde's original post was deleted, but screenshots lived forever, now side by side with the truth. Miss Summers? A reporter caught me outside the courthouse. Can you comment on your father's arrest? I turned to face the cameras. Everything I have to say is in the evidence I provided to authorities. But how do you feel about... How do I feel? I interrupted, surprising myself. I feel relieved. The truth is finally out. Financial abuse is still abuse. Family manipulation is still manipulation. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say no more. Inside, Flynn waited with updates. Your father's being charged with tax evasion and fraud. Clyde's facing identity theft charges. Your mother, he checked his notes. The false CPS report is being investigated. And Lindsay left town last night. Posted a long Facebook statement distancing herself from everything. Smart woman, finally. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessie. You need to see this. She'd forwarded a link to a local community Facebook group. There was my mother, posting a tearful video about her mentally unstable daughter destroying the family. Don't worry, Jessie added. I've got screenshots of her deleting comments that expose her lies. The next few days passed in a blur. More evidence emerged as others came forward. Former business partners my father had cheated, distant relatives who'd been scammed, old friends who'd witnessed the manipulation. Your story inspired my daughter to finally stand up to her abusive in-laws, one message read. I thought I was alone in dealing with financial abuse from family, said another. Thank you for showing me I'm not. A week after my post, I stood outside the courthouse again. My father had just been denied bail, flight risk, given the offshore accounts Jessie had uncovered. Was revenge worth it? A different reporter this time, holding out her microphone. I looked directly into the camera. This isn't revenge. This is justice. This is saying enough to years of abuse disguised as family obligation. This is showing others they don't have to accept manipulation just because it comes from people who share their DNA. My phone lit up with a notification. Clyde had posted again, this time a confession. Everything my sister said was true. I'm sorry. I need help. Later that evening, sitting in Flynn's office, we reviewed the aftermath. Your father's facing serious time, he said. The IRS doesn't play around. Clyde's agreed to testify against him in exchange for a lighter sentence. Your mother, he sighed. She's been served with restraining orders from 3 different people who came forward with harassment claims. And the condo? Safe in the trust, though given everything that's come out, I doubt they'll try anything else. My phone buzzed. Ariel. Just wanted you to know, I'm moving out next month. Saved enough for a down payment on my own place. You inspired me to stop waiting and take control of my life. That night, I drove past my parents' house, dark now, empty. My mother was staying with her sister, who'd posted a long rant about family loyalty that backfired spectacularly when someone shared screenshots of her own financial schemes. Natalia called as I pulled into my driveway. You trending again? Apparently. I unlocked my door. Did you see Clyde's confession? Yeah. Think he means it? Doesn't matter anymore. I settled onto my couch, feeling the weight of the past weeks. It's out of my hands now. The truth is doing its job. Any regrets? I thought about my father in his cell, my mother's tearful videos, Clyde's fall from grace. Only that I didn't do it sooner. Because the thing about karma, sometimes it needs a witness. Sometimes the best revenge isn't plotting in secret. It's simply standing in the light and telling the truth. My phone lit up one last time. Another message from a stranger. Your story gave me courage. Tomorrow, I'm finally telling my family no. I smiled, typing back, the truth will set you free. But first, it'll piss everyone off. And sitting there in my quiet house, surrounded by the aftermath of justice served, I felt nothing but peace. The silence in my condo felt different now, peaceful instead of lonely. I was sorting through old family photos when Ariel knocked on my door, holding a small gift bag. I know I still have 2 weeks left on the lease, she said, stepping inside, but I wanted to give you this before I moved out. Inside the bag was a framed quote. Sometimes the family we choose is stronger than the family we're born into. Thank you, I said, genuinely touched. And congratulations on your new place. I couldn't have done it without you showing me what standing up for yourself looks like? She hesitated. Have you heard from them? A letter came from my mother this morning. I nodded toward the unopened envelope on my coffee table. Haven't decided if I'm reading it. My phone buzzed. Natalia. Turn on Channel 7. Now. I grabbed the remote. There on screen was my father in his prison jumpsuit, being led into court. The headline scrolled, "Local businessman pleads guilty in tax fraud scheme." In a surprising development, the reporter said, Dexter Summers has agreed to a plea deal, implicating several business associates in a years-long financial fraud operation. Ariel squeezed my hand as we watched. "You okay?" "Better than okay." I muted the TV. "It's finally over." My phone lit up again, this time with a message from Lindsay. "I filed for divorce today. You were right about everything. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." "Speaking of over," Ariel said, "I heard your story is being featured in that documentary about financial abuse in families. They're interviewing me next week. I picked up my mother's letter. Want to witness me either making or regretting a decision? Open it." The letter was exactly what I expected. 3 pages of guilt, blame, and zero accountability. "You've destroyed this family," she wrote. "I hope you're happy in your empty life with your empty victory." I handed it to Ariel, who read it and shook her head. She still doesn't get it. "No," I agreed, taking the letter to my fireplace. "But I finally do." As the pages curled and blackened in the flames, my phone chimed with an email notification. The subject line read, "Thank you for saving my life. Dear Livia," it began, "I was going to give my manipulative family my entire retirement fund because family helps family. Then I read your story. Today I said no. They're furious, but I'm free. Thank you for showing me the way." Ariel read over my shoulder. "You've started a movement, you know. People are waking up. Maybe that's what this was all about." I gestured to the burning letter. Not revenge, not even justice, just truth. My doorbell rang. Natalia stood there with takeout bags. "Thought you might need dinner and a friend tonight." As we ate, more messages poured in. Stories of courage, of boundaries set, of freedom found. Each one a reminder that the price of truth, however heavy, was worth paying. "I have something to show you," Natalia said, pulling out her tablet. "Remember that post you made about turning pain into purpose?" She pulled up a website, Financial Freedom from Family Fraud, a resource center for people dealing with family financial abuse. "It launches next week," she explained. "People need guidance, support, legal resources. Your story showed us that." I stared at the screen, at the tagline, because love shouldn't cost you everything. "This is perfect," I whispered. My phone buzzed one last time. "Jesse, just got word. Your mother's sister is under investigation too. The whole house of cards is falling." Ariel raised her glass. "To karma." "To truth," Natalia added. "To freedom," I finished. Later, after they'd left, I walked through my quiet home. The photos I'd been sorting still lay scattered, memories of a family that never really existed except in carefully staged pictures. I gathered them up not to hide or burn, but to keep. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying the past. It's building a future that makes that past irrelevant. Opening my laptop, I began typing, "Dear Internet family, today, someone asked if I regret exposing the truth. Here's my answer. The only thing I regret is believing I deserved the abuse. So here's what I want you to know. Because the thing about family, sometimes letting go is the strongest way to hold on to yourself. And sometimes karma doesn't just need a push. It needs a witness, a voice, and a community brave enough to say, 'Me too. I believe you. You're not alone.'" I hit post and smiled. The silence in my home wasn't just peaceful now. It was powerful.